the I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.
Andy Franklin, what's up, dude?
What's going on, Travis?
Not much, man. We were already, before we hit the mics, we were going. But anyway, what were you saying, though? We were talking about comedy and how I feel like, even though I don't perform, I feel like I'm I went through my open micer phase as a host and somebody who understands the scene a little bit. And now I feel like I'm getting into like, okay, you're like a host maybe, in terms of my knowledge. That's me, how I feel. And then you were saying...
Well, do you mean like knowledge of comedy or how comedy works? I didn't ask you that before, so...
I mean, it's probably a little... I don't know. I don't want to sound like egotistical, but I feel like I've been a fan of comedy for so long. I feel like I understand it pretty well.
Yeah.
But... I'm sure if I talk to someone who's got 10 years in it, they probably feel differently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I respect that there's a lot that I don't know that I don't know.
Right. No, and that's really cool. But the thing that's cool about what you said before, when you were like saying you have no interest in doing comedy.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'll be honest with you, I don't think that's gonna last. I think I've seen people try to hold out as long as possible and then they start. You might not be one of those. You know what I mean?
So my background originally was in music.
Okay. And
I love music. I play guitar and I performed. I was in bands and played. And as much as I love music, that pulls back the curtain just enough to where you always listen to it differently. You watch concerts differently.
Right.
I don't think I ever want to do that with comedy. I think I've peeled back the curtain enough that I like some of the inner workings, but I think there's that fine line of like being on the stage, holding the mic. Like you can learn as much as you want to, but if you never do that, there's something that always keeps a little mystery.
That's cool.
And I feel like I always want to have that little bit
different
of like, well, I don't know what that's like.
It's I cannot remember his name. I know his name. His first name is David. I have his book. He wrote a really, really, really good book, and he has a podcast about comedy. He wrote a book about comedy. What you were saying just reminded me of him. Dave, I can't remember his last name, but long story short, his book is called Comedy Book.
Okay.
His podcast is called A Good One, and it's a podcast about jokes. The funny thing about him, same thing. He only tried comedy. I think he said, I read his book. He said he tried comedy one time.
Okay.
And bombed and never did it again. and I think his perspective is very valuable. And I think that a lot of people need that opinion and need that person's outlook. A person like your like feedback. But a lot of comics don't want it. And I think a lot of musicians are different in that way, right? Because a lot of music journalists, they don't play music, right? But they still go to the magazine and go, what the hell did they say about my album?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's so that's a little bit of what spawned this podcast is I miss, I know you're into music as much as I am. And I miss that era of, like radio stations that had good DJs that curated their own stuff or most of their stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then, I feel like there used to be a whole group of like reviewers where it wasn't about engagement. They like really loved whatever they were reviewing. Right. And if they gave a good criticism, like, man, you could trust it because they would know intimate details about albums and bands and and you're like, okay, I can trust this person. And now it feels like it's so hard to get that back.
It is.
Right?
It is.
Because there's no money in it,
There's no money in it, and also I feel like when it comes from the, and I hate to say it, but the artist's perspective.
Yes.
You can see a lot of artists thinking, and they could be right, that the opinion of someone who's not in could come off as pretentious.
100%.
Because there's nothing else you're basing it off of. You're not basing it off of real life experience, right?
Yeah.
You never did it. So it's like, this. But that's the thing that's so crazy about comics, dude. And probably everybody else. They're like, say you reviewed an album, a comics album, right?
Yeah.
And you were like, this is amazing. They're going to go, God, this fucking Travis guy. Travis gets it. But you'd review that same comics album and you say, this is trash. They're going to, it's fucking good to know what he's talking about. He's never done comedy in his life. So that...
Well, and honestly, that's why I decided on naming the show I'm a Fan of.
Because you don't just do comedy. You do music. I've listened to podcasts.
That and like, I wanted to try to check myself and make sure, because I will do some written reviews from time to time on something I really love. It's more sparing.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure it was always from the angle of like positive. Which kind of sucks because you get more engagement doing negative. If I was just like this is trash and blah blah, you would get more clicks because the articles I was writing like I reviewed. I wrote a short article about Ralph Barbosa when people were kind of saying like he wasn't deserving of his stuff that when he was coming up.
I didn't know people were saying that.
I'm not going to drop names, but there was some people in the scene.
Like, in the scene. I thought you meant like.
Well, there was like a famous
around the world.
No, I was literally going to.
I've read comments too, but yeah.
I was literally going to shows, and comics here locally who will remain nameless were talking nicely about him, but then there'd be some other people chiming in about how he's going to fail and he's not ready and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, and my favorite part of it was like people telling him what he should be doing, as he's already been on HBO and he's going to do his Netflix thing and he's touring around the country selling out shows, and they're like, what he needs to be doing.
Well, you need to be. Yeah,
it's like shut your fucking
trust
mouth.
me. That's
like, And so,
on every level, that's the thing. Though,
but
dude.
on that article, what I realized is I was like, okay, you got to. Unfortunately, nowadays, I can't just write a positive thing about Ralph. I've got to do the old bait and switch where you started off with like a title that seems like it's going to be trashing them, and really it's a nice article. Okay. And so he was kind enough to repost that, and so all of his fans who were crazy loyal, half of them didn't read it and were just trashing me. They were like going to my like they saw in my profile that I was like redoing my backyard, and they're like, stick to construction, loser. Like. And his other fans were like, read the article.
That's
like,
fucking hilarious. Are you serious? That's funny.
Yeah. And so, but just true to form, it's like if I had just written like, I think Ralph's really great.
Yeah.
It probably slides under. Well, but when people get heated, they're like, who's this motherfucker?
Who is this motherfucker? I mean, honestly, but just specifically, Ralph is one of my favorite comics, and
he's objectively funny. Yeah, he may not be for you, but he's funny.
Yeah, man. I'm sure. I mean, that's why I was more interested, because I've never ran into anyone that hated on Ralph's comedy. Yeah. Maybe
you get a
comments. Yes, you get a few YouTube comments. Sure,
you get a few drinks and a few. People.
Some locals will go.
A few saucy locals who are a little spicy.
Wow. Can I look at the camera?
Go ahead.
Can I look at the camera?
Yeah.
Can I cuss on this?
Whatever you want.
I'm gonna just do it.
Yeah.
In defense of Ralph Barbosa, fuck y'all. Ralph's the shit. Ralph's the truth.
The overwhelming majority was positive, but there was a couple, and that's why I wrote the article. Literally, like I was a little tipsy myself, and when I was driving home, I was like, fuck them, fuck these people.
Well, the thing is though, like I said, and I've never encountered it in person. You know what I mean? And if I did, I probably would. I wouldn't be angry. Because and I'm not speaking for Ralph, but I'll be honest. I mean, I know the kid. You know what I mean? And we've hung out. We've had conversations before. I think Ralph would be able to defend himself in a way that comes across as positive. You know what I mean? Like I have a constructive conversation. If someone was coming at them with like any kind of criticism, because everybody deserves criticism.
Sure.
And like I said, I've never heard anybody talk shit about Ralph in person, but I have seen YouTube comments and shit, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen people come in, and I think that is objectively a good thing, right? Because when you see that, for me, when I see that, I go, fuck yeah! All right. I mean, that means that like, there's some opposition there. There's people who, I don't know who said it, but people will look at the Sistine Chapel and go, "That's trash." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whatever.
You're right. It's always healthy. Like, like I was joking around. Like you have your special out now. By the way, congratulations.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. And it is
fun
trash.
And cool.
It's trash.
It's not trash. We'll get to that. But I got to work with Lawrence on his, and we were joking around. It's like I don't think you're successful anymore until you have a good amount of negative comments of people hating on it, right? So it's like that's the goal now. It's like these positive ones are great, but I need someone to come in here and just trash it for a minute.
People have trashed my shit to hell, bro. So yeah.
Oh no,
I'm gonna be a star,
dude. I don't know if you remember, but I had the good fortune of being at the show when you recorded it. And like that,
you look different than your Facebook than when I saw. I didn't know you were there.
I
remember I messaged you. I was like, "Why didn't you come?" You're like, "Bro, it's fucking right there." In the
I was front. Like you can see me in the video. I'm front row. Yeah. Yeah. If you're looking at the stage,
you're right there. You're like,
I'm on the right side with my buddy Chris.
Well, you're stage left, so the right.
Yeah. If you're facing the stage, I'm on the right side. Yeah. And I was like, "Hey, I made it." Yeah. No, and I don't know. It was so fun. That was the first time that I've got to be a part of someone's recording as like just a pure audience member.
Yeah.
And I like that Red Room a lot. I've always felt like that
Red Room is cool.
I feel like it could be utilized so much more too.
Yeah.
It's a tight little room, and I'm glad to see that you chose that spot to do it with.
It's changed now, actually.
They switched it up?
No, well, not the room, but they're using it differently now.
Oh, okay.
They're booking it like a second headliner room now.
They should. They should. It should be, because what does it hold? Like 60? Damn. It's a tight room. I
think it holds 70.
Okay, yeah.
Which, tight, you know? So tables.
But that would be great. A tight room.
So it's, well, the way it, it has, what do you call it? Like restaurant tables.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's weird to hold that many people, because that means you're sitting people at a round table. Oh, it's not like stadium seats, where it's like, whenever I wanted to shoot it there, and stop me if I'm going too far off.
No, go ahead.
But I wanted to change the seating to where it was like stadium seating or whatever, to where like people just sat in a row, and they told me that we couldn't do it.
Okay.
And the only reason I wanted to do it was for laughter, A, and B, to cut any like distractions, because I was like, well, that's why I put so many people on the show as well. I'm kind of going backwards, but I put some. They said no, so I was like, okay, well, shit, we'll just add some more comics that'll buffer the time people are eating cheese sticks and on their phone and all that stuff. Also, we didn't get as many people in the show as I wanted, and then I found out last minute, maybe that morning, that we had to cut the second show.
Oh, okay.
Because we didn't sell enough tickets, and the owner of the club was like, "Hey, we got to get rid of the second show," which is understandable. It was like 8 people in the second show, so he was like, "We got to move the 8 to the other show."
Yeah,
and I don't know if they showed up or not, as a matter of fact, but there weren't enough.
I was going to say the one I was in looked like it was full.
It looked full. It did, but in all honesty, it wasn't as full as that room gets, so that kind of sucks. That kind of sucks for everything. But I mean, at the time, I didn't really care. I was like, we gotta do what we gotta do. You gotta block all the negativity out. But then afterwards, I was like, shit, this should have been. I wish there was more people.
Well, you're always gonna look. You know what though? You could have had it packed to the walls, and you would still think of all the reasons why it wasn't as good as it should be.
Right.
That's just the way you guys all work. But what was your overall experience now that it's behind you? Now that you've got some time between it and now,
we're gonna dive right into this. We're gonna dive right into it now. Okay.
Yeah, well, because I get fascinated because I liked recording hours, but there's a lot of unknowns when you go into it, and especially like you said, you're going one show, one take.
Yeah, I was not confident in that.
Yeah,
I'm confident in my abilities. To do comedy, right? And I think you have to think highly of yourself a little bit at least, right? I mean, but I immediately was like, I'm not good enough to do this in one take. and I wanted to cancel, but then I was like, no negative vibes. How
soon were you, or how late were you thinking about canceling?
Bro, I found out the day of that we didn't get enough for the second show. I mean, I knew the second show was light.
You were thinking day of, like,
day of was like, let's just fuck this up.
No. Did somebody talk you into it, or did you talk yourself into it?
Not cancel never and never do it again. Like, let's postpone, go to another venue.
No.
Like, let's do this. The crew was going to Austin to shoot something at the mothership, and I was like, I could just do it there. And they entertained the idea. They're like, maybe, but I don't know how it's going to work. We haven't even, you know what I mean? And panic mode starts setting. And then that's when I realized, I was like, you're going to ruin this.
Yeah.
Your fucking brain is all over the place right now. You're panicking.
Analysis paralysis. Yeah. Okay, so you were freaking out a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah.
Were you freaking all the way up to the stage, or was it? Did you get it together before then? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I read something that said when you're doing anything next level, whether it's recording a special, doing an album, or getting married, whatever it is, you gotta treat it like any normal day you were doing something. So I decided to just be like, well, any normal day that I'm doing comedy, any normal show, I'm not freaking out. So so why don't you do what you normally do, which is I'm usually chilling by myself. So I was like, I guess I'm gonna chill by myself. So I just left, went and got some coffee, walked around downtown, went over my set the way I normally do. And then usually I've learned that I could go over my set too much. And so I was like, we can't make this any different. Just stop going over the set now. You got to end it at 2:00. Stop, because I was going over my set, which I do sometimes. I would do the whole set in my house, in the mirror or something, or in my room, or in the living room. I'll just I have a microphone since from 2020, and I just we get my mic and I'll just do the whole set. I'll even pause for laughter, which is so lame. If my neighbor hears me, he probably thinks I'm a fucking psychopath. Because I'll go through a whole set, dude, just just about every show I ever do, unless I'm doing like 5 minutes.
But it's just it's like when people pull the laughter out of sitcoms. It's just awkward silence, and you're like, and 2, 3. Like,
I'll even riff too. You know what I mean? Like I'll walk around my
You go
house,
up to the couch, look at the dog. You're like, where are you guys from?
Where you guys from? What are we talking about?
Oh, so you were talking about me maybe doing comedy at some point. We did the closest I ever came was a long time ago when Kill Tony was still in L.A. They came through Fort Worth Hyenas, and it was not to the level that it is now, but it was still popular enough that they sold out the Fort Worth Hyenas. And anyway, me and some friends, we were fans of the show, so it was like, I think it was like 5 or 6 of us went. And of course, like we go to the Flying Saucer over there beforehand, have some drinks, and we find out we all had secretly been working on like a minute, because we were just thinking like, it's Kill Tony, like sign up, why not, And so, I was thinking in my mind like when he's in LA, like 100 people sign up, and he's probably maybe going to get through like 8, 9, 10 guests tops.
Yeah, less probably. No,
right, so 1 in 10 chance. I'm not going to get pulled out of there. We'll do whatever. And so I was in my apartment. I was like, practicing like a minute of some kind, and you get a lot of false confidence when you do that, and you've never done it before.
Yeah.
And then when we were drinking, it's like, if you sign up, I'll sign up, right? Which is a horrible way to do it. And then the moment he comes out, he's got this beer pitcher full of the bucket full of names, and so I'm thinking like 100 people are going to be in there, and then the reality of like, our scene is not quite like LA's, and he was like 40 brave souls signed up, and I was like, God, I just went from a 1 in 10 to a 1 in 4. It's like, this is horrible. And we're looking around each other. There was 4 of us. That's right, because we were looking around and we're thinking one of us is going. This I don't know who, and it was the most like fear-based adrenaline for the. I've never watched a comedy show with that much fear. That every time the person got off stage, you're just like, oh God.
Yeah.
Thankfully, nobody got called from our table. I don't know how we missed it.
That's good.
Yeah, because it would have been horrible.
No, I guess that's not good.
No, it's good because I like that it didn't happen. I like that it did not happen to me because you would have had to have gone.
Yeah.
And I think what I was working on is my dog at the time. We got him when he was 4 months old, and something about my dog, I don't know what. Originally, we thought he just didn't like black people at all. And then we narrowed it down to black guys.
Okay.
And then we narrowed it down to like big black dudes with like dreads, a backpack, and a hat.
Okay.
And then we realized,
wait, what?
Yeah. And then we realized, like, oh, it's not black people. It's just big people who have things like covering their head and their face and their. So, like, if you wore like a hat and like a backpack and you had like long hair or something, you were kind of
like suspects.
Right. And so we're like, oh, thank God. Yeah. But that was going to be the before we knew that, we just thought he was a little racist. And that's the old joke is like, well, the dog gets it from the owner.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was trying to do some stuff about that. And it's like, yeah, so you're going to tackle racism in 1 minute, huh? That's going to go well. That's a good, smart move, right? And so it's like.
It's relatable material. I mean, I don't know. I've encountered racist dogs, okay?
Do what now?
I've encountered racist dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I don't know that if the dog was racist, but I've encountered white people tell me their dog's racist. That's
fair
the thing,
enough.
all the time.
Yeah.
Like, yo, my dog's racist. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I would like. I was always doing the like. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I don't know what's gotten into.
He does not like black people. You had to.
Sorry, man. He just doesn't like you.
Yeah, sorry, man. Hey, he's born with it. German Shepherd. You know, you get it.
But that was the closest I ever got to it, and it was just like so much fear. So much fear of going on that stage. And I was like, yeah, I made the good choice of never doing this.
Hey, man, dude, look.
The name was in the bucket. It just never got pulled.
It just never got pulled?
Yeah.
Did you actually put your name in the bucket?
I actually put it
in
there.
So you were going to do it?
If they would have called my name, I would have. Because you can't be the person who doesn't go up. Right? That's worse. I would have just had to go up there, take my licks, get made fun of, and enjoy the ride,
I mean, my first time was not the best.
Where was it?
Hyenas, Fort Worth.
Fort Worth, yeah.
The one that you got me on April Fools with. Am I the only one who fell for your April Fool shit? I'm the only one? Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't know if the listeners know about this, but if you follow the social media at all, on April Fools every year, which we just passed, this was, I think, the 3rd year that I've done it.
Yeah.
I'll just make a post that I'm opening up a venue. It's totally fake. The first year I did it, I found like some really shitty real estate pictures of like a really torn up building that needed renovations.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was the first one.
I do remember that.
And so I did that. And then I did that for 2 years and people fell for it. And this year I was like, everything's moving to video. I was like, I got to step it up.
Yeah.
And so that's why I did it that way, where I was like filming in front of a building with a fake lease
Bro,
and all
you put captions on it. You went real. And I was like, look at this guy. Son of a... I told so many people, too.
Well, my favorite part is I knew some people would notice it's literally across the street from Hyenas.
Yeah.
Which would be a horrible spot. Yeah, a horrible spot. And that's the fun for me is like you'll start getting DMs that are just like, hey, dude, like, did you do your research? Like, I don't want to tell you not to do this, but like... and then of course... So like now next year you'll see it and you'll be like, I'm gonna fall for this, right?
For this shit. I'm not gonna lie though, I piggybacked off your April Fools.
Oh, you did? What did you do?
I called a friend and told them that I knew somebody opening up a comedy club and that they wanted me to partner with them. And I was like, bro, I think this is a good idea for me too. And they were like, yeah, that's a really good idea, dude. Yeah. I was like, yeah. And I was like, by the way, April Fools.
Well, I don't know. It got shared by so many people that I don't know, which was really funny.
Dude, that's crazy.
And I got this one poor guy. He sent me an email, and his boss was included in the email of somebody who wanted to interview me about opening up a new club in Dallas.
Oh, my God.
And I had to be like, I'm so sorry. This is just a joke. And then there's, of course, like every year there's like really new, thirsty, like open micers. Yeah. And those DMs just come pouring in.
See, dude, you're learning so much about comedy, dude. How many people did you book? How many?
I seriously had about 10 people hit me up to be bookers. And then probably they were just like, I mean, they were very polite. And that's the thing is they're all nice. Mm-hmm. And so you don't want to shit all over them. You just send them a quick like, April Fools. And then they're all just like, oh, fuck you. But it gives me so much joy. Yeah. And like I said, my goal now is I'm going to keep doing it every year. And I'm going to try to make it more and more convincing every year to the point where if I do actually open a club, people are just going to be like, okay, fuck off. And I'm like, no, for real. It's really happening. Yeah. And they're like, no, we're not coming. But I don't know. I get so much joy in doing it. I did have one guy. He's like, bro, that's across the street from Hyenas, you know, and I like to play dumb.
That's what I said too.
Yeah, that's right. But you didn't go as deep. And I was like, no, man, Hyenas is in Fort Worth. This is in Dallas at Mockingbird Station. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, that's where Hyenas is. And I was like, no, I think they closed during the pandemic or something. I was like, I remember they used to be there or something. And he's like, no, I work with comics. He's like, they definitely do shows there. We were there like a few weeks ago. And like, you know, I try to just keep it going because they're not, you know, and I was just like, no, man, like we had a whole team. Okay, they looked at the entire area. Do you think we're idiots? Like, if there was a club, we would know.
You went deep.
Yeah, but then finally they just message you back and they're just like, oh, fuck you.
Well played.
Yeah,
well played,
so yeah, look out for it next year. It's my fun tradition, and please, you know, play along a little if you want.
All right.
But there's a whole new group of people every year. Yeah, that are trying to get a leg up, and then the veterans are just like this guy. Yeah, you know, and so it becomes.
Well, we I don't know about everybody, but I wait for it around like New Year's Eve, like a little after New Year's Eve, like January, February. You'll start seeing like an influx of comics.
Oh, are those the resolutions and like
New Year's resolution comic? Some last. Yeah, I mean, I was a New Year's resolution comic. My first open mic was January. Was it 10th? So I waited 10 days after to actually go for it. But I went for my dreams. Okay?
What was it that made you make that resolution? Like, what was the build up to like, I want to do this?
A little bit like you, but probably worse. I chickened out. Mm-hmm. Like, damn, man. I want to say in intervals. So I chickened out like, you know, when I was like really young, you know, and I was like right out of high school. I was going to do it just to do it, not to like be a comic, but I was like, I want to try to do comedy. I want to write. I just want to know what it was like to write a joke, right? I was like, I'm going to write a joke and then I'm going to do it on stage, right? Yeah. And then, but at that time, I remember I was really into comedy, you know what I mean? But I had other goals and stuff, and I was like, this would be funny. And then I didn't really know a lot about like, you know, I'm pretty old, right? I'm 40. So this is like like, Instagram. This is pretty.
Yeah. Well, how many years do you have in right now? That's something I don't know. How many years have you been in comedy right now?
So this is crazy. So I started in January of 2010.
Okay.
And then, but I don't count it because I went in. I was going. I would say maybe like 2 open mics a month, maybe, for like a good year. I didn't really know what I was doing, and then I was wondering why I wasn't getting booked, and I got really frustrated. I know now, but at the time I was like, what the fuck, dude?
You're like, I'm really good.
I'm crushing this mic a month. And so I went for about 2 years. I would say roughly 3. And then I kind of slowed. I wouldn't say I quit, but I slowed down. I kind of got into acting, and I started taking like some like sketch comedy classes. I took acting classes. And that got in the way of comedy, but I felt like comedy wasn't really going anywhere, and I really felt like, which is crazy, me and Ralph had the same conversation, but I felt like if I didn't move to LA, I was never going to make it in comedy. So about 4 years in, and I would say a good solid 2 actually really trying hard, the other 2 with the, kind of BSing around, and I quit, and then I started back, and then honestly, same thing again. Where I was like, if I don't move to, and also, sorry, I have a kid, and you can't just move family to Los Angeles to chase your pipe dream. So I was like, I'm not going to LA, so I gotta quit. Like I'm not getting where I am. And I actually, when I started back, about a year after that, I went to LA and did a couple shows. I could tell you long story how that happened, but I got to do some really good shows, like shows that I didn't deserve to do. But I got lucky. I had a great set on the first one, and so I was able to go back and do a second one. Great set on that one. So I was able to do a third one, and I couldn't because of work. And then that kind of led down like a path of like, insecurity and like depression took over. And I was like, well, fuck it. If I can't even do the show, I can't move. I should quit again. I didn't quit. But I could definitely say I wasn't working hard. Yeah. So then, I started, enough of the like, this is ridiculous. If I'm doing this, I should be trying a lot harder than I am. And then so to be quite honest with you, I'm probably being a little hard on myself, but I give myself 9 years.
Okay.
Some would say more. But I say 9 to 10. I guess honestly 10, I don't really count the year I wasn't really trying hard. You know what I mean?
I bet if you think, but I bet if you think about it, you were probably still occasionally in your mind thinking about jokes, thinking about
all the time.
You know what I'm saying? Like
all the time.
So it's like in a way you're kind of working through it, even though you're not performing. Yeah.
That's one thing. I was just
going to say that's the weird thing about art, though. Like I feel like if you don't think about quitting something all the time, it's probably not something you really like. If you really, really, really love it, you still think like, I'm never going to do this. Why am I wasting time?
It's so crazy whenever the pandemic ended, and that's right when the pandemic ended, I remember being like, I have to fucking get back on stage. And it's crazy because, I guess I forgot to mention, when I wasn't doing comedy, 2 things were happening. One, I was writing jokes all the time. And I was thinking about doing stand-up like all the time. Also, I was making short films a lot, and I was trying to be a filmmaker, and I kept thinking like, you know what? If I can get a good feature film out there, this is the dumbest way of thinking. But I was like, if I can get a good feature film out there to get my name out there, I can fucking like really take more time to do comedy now. Like I don't have to worry about shit because my movie's going to be fucking bringing in. And
you picked you picked an even harder profession, filmmaking. You're like, all I got to do is get my Ron Howard moment, and I'll be great.
Fucking, I can get back to what I really want to be doing.
But
you know what's insane, man, about the idea of not being able to move to LA and everything? Whenever I met Ralph right around 2021. We had that same like kind of conversation about, because we both have kids, and we both have kids with both like single parents or whatever. And I remember him mentioning the same shit to me of like how he was like wanting, and he posted. I remember him posting something on, that's what it was. He posted something on Facebook about that, like being like, damn, if I can't move or whatever, like what's the point or whatnot. And he didn't quit.
No.
And he not only did he not quit, he figured out a way, and then got to a point that was probably comfortable, and then went past that. Right. I think his success has even skyrocketed past his expectations, which is great.
Oh yeah,
which is awesome.
He's definitely a rare example.
How can you not be proud of that? I don't understand how people can hate on that shit. It's like,
everybody's jealous all the time.
Yeah,
right.
Jealousy is one thing.
Yeah,
but like pure hate for that is like different. You know what? I don't know.
Well, I think it's just hard for people to realize that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's being good is a prerequisite, right? Right? But there's always just chance.
Yeah.
And that's totally out of control sometimes of who wins and who doesn't. Because it's not even a losing. It's just like he got some great opportunities that other people didn't get.
Yeah.
But he was able to seize it with his talent.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's like sometimes, it's a little bit of luck. And
the opportunity,
that's just life.
You got some
right?
opportunities that people didn't get.
But the reality is anyone who is jealous at that point, it's like if you had been given that same opportunity, you would not have done what he did.
Correct.
So it's like
other people have gotten that. Other people got that same opportunity.
Yeah.
And they didn't prevail. So that maybe that you should read into that. But I feel like the same shit happened with me when it came to me doing spots at the Comedy Store.
Oh yeah.
Pretty early on in comedy. I was pretty early on, and I can tell you how it happened. I was doing this kind of was the kind of roller coaster that got me. It's ironically it's got me to thinking about quitting. Was I was doing comedy. I realized I wasn't doing hard enough. That's when social media starts popping. So then you start seeing other comics, and you're like, oh shit, there's different scenes. There's a whole world. When I started comedy, I hadn't heard of the Comedy Store. I was like 4 years in before I heard of it.
Yeah,
and you know how fucking it's funny too, because it's so funny when like newer comics don't like to. And when I say new, I don't even mean like year new. I'm talking like 5 years new.
Okay,
they don't like to, I've noticed they don't really like to acknowledge how new they are. But like, for instance, Comedy Store, super popular. When I started comedy, it was not popular. And they can't fathom the idea. I'm like, bro, when I started comedy, that place was nothing. Like, it was like weird to even bring it up. No one was there. It was not popular. It was like, I hadn't even heard of it.
Well, it's just proof that everything goes in waves, right? It's like there's highs and lows no matter what the business is. And it's really about that longevity of like,
correct.
Can you get through this down period?
Can you get through this down area?
Yeah.
So like I said, I was doing sketch comedy and acting and stuff, and I had an agent, a Dallas-based agent. I had an audition for the reboot of In Living Color that they never did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I go to the audition, and it's so funny, bro. So I remember at that point, I had never taken sketch. I had taken like 2 levels of improv, and I sucked at it, and I hated it. But I was taking some acting classes, and I was doing stand-up. And I went to this audition, and I go in, and they set us like, it's the show. The audition is basically like, they give us a script like right then, and they're like, okay, do the sketch. And then they go, all right, now we're gonna do some improv. So we do the improv, and I'm just murdering. Okay, I'm killing this room. Everybody's laughing. Some of the comics are on the thing are laughing. I don't really know them. I think I remember one person was a student that did the Dallas Comedy House at the time, was there. There were some familiar faces in the auditions as well, right? I'm killing. So then I remember the lady, the casting director, she goes, all right, next group, send this group out. She tells me to stay, and I'm thinking in my head, I know what's about to happen right now. I'm about to fucking meet Jim Carrey. Like, this is it, right? She goes, come here for a second. And they're all kind of doing notes, and they're all like, the other casting people are doing their thing.
Yeah.
She goes, what the fuck's your problem? And I was
no.
I was like, what? She goes, let me ask you a question. Are you a stand-up comic? And I was like, yeah. How'd you know? She goes, because you don't know how to do improv at all. You just stole the scene from everybody. She's like, the idea is for the scene to be funny, not you to be funny. And I didn't realize, I didn't know. I thought I was supposed to go in and fucking kill and make, that's it, I'm about to be famous.
Yeah.
And then she goes, here's my card. I want you to email me. She's like, yeah, I think you're funny, but this is not for you. And just the FYI, you didn't get it. You didn't even pass the next level. I was like, cool. So I email her. And then she goes, if you want to come out to LA, I can get you some spots. And I was like, cool. So she got me a spot at the Comedy Store.
Wow. What a nice person, by the way.
Yeah.
She could have just told you,
She could have told me to fuck off.
Yeah.
She gives me, dude, I'll go out to LA. She gave me spots at the Comedy Store, Hollywood Improv.
Wow.
I have good stuff. I had a friend that was living there that doesn't do comedy. His girlfriend and my uncle lives in LA. He came, got to fucking do the comedy. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I went back, and then like, I want to say maybe almost a year later, I messaged her again. And she was like, I'm actually not booking anymore, but here's this other person. I get this other person's phone number, call her up. She's like, sure. I go out to LA. I get a monstrous spot. Like, it's insane. I meet some of my heroes. I met Eric Griffin. Mark Maron yelled at me. That was kind of cool. He thought I was the door guy because I was walking around like a tourist, and he started screaming at me. If Mark Maron listens to your podcast, hey Mark, I'm the fucking guy for some reason you yelled at for some reason.
Yeah.
A bunch of comics, and then I was like, I should probably move to LA, and then me and my kid's mom were like, she's like, fuck no, I'm not moving to LA. And I was like, I won't leave my kid. And I was like, I should quit, which is the dumbest.
Yeah. If I can't move, then I'm, that's definitely the like, I'm taking my ball home.
Yeah. Fuck it. Well, all right. I guess that's it.
So a little side note though,
sorry.
that woman that did that for you, it's like, I hope, first of all, I hope she's doing well because
I hope she is. Like, I've seen her name through stuff, but it's like weird to contact her now.
What a testament of like how you should work. It's like if someone's not good for something, but they've got something else, and you can help with that. Yeah, it's like all that good karma.
That is really good karma.
I mean, it's like who knows. Like who knows what leg up that might give somebody who ends up being something, and then they're and you won't even know it. They'll just be like, "Yeah, I think her name was Jan. She did this thing, and now I'm famous." Rather than just being like, "Don't ever come back here. Go back to Texas. What are you doing out here?" Don't make me get my racist dog out. What a nice movie. And like it's so the opposite of what the stereotypes of LA. That
is very true.
Like the business would be like.
That's kind of what sold me on LA. I mean, I honestly never had any dreams of living in Los Angeles. Even when I started comedy, I was always a New York guy. I was always wanted to go to New York. I wanted to, even before comedy, I wanted to go to New York. To be a filmmaker. I wanted to go to New York I grew up skateboarding. I wanted to go to New York, be a pro skater. Like everything I've gotten into, it was like I got to do it in New York. Yeah. And I started comedy when I'd never been to LA. Or even thought about going to LA until I did comedy there. Interesting. And then I was like, oh, this fucking place kind of rocks. Like, I was like, all right.
Yeah, it's interesting, man, how those pockets, like, well, I don't know. To me, I feel like we're just now developing some of that here. Like, I feel like this scene is just at this really good spot where I think we're all underestimating just how much it's about to pop off around here.
You think so?
I think so.
Cool. I was going to ask you what you see, like what you think.
Yeah, I mean, well, because... I don't know
why I did this, but
it's good. It's good. Well, I mean, I think that we have a good mix of like serious veteran comics, like 15 plus years around here. We got that group. We've got a ton of people that are at a spot like yourself that are like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years in, where a lot of the really famous, successful comics say like that's when you become like yourself as a comic. Like at those years, like you know how to make people laugh, you know how to be a comic, as you're going through years, 2 through whatever. Yeah. You know how to be funny on a stage or work through a club. But when you hit that kind of 8, 9, 10 year mark, that's when you're thinking like, this is me. This is how I like to perform.
Yeah.
And so I think we've got this group of people that are all right at that mark. And we're about to see who's going to, because it feels like that's a tough area where it's like, I've been doing this 10 years. Is it going to pop off?
It's a very tough area.
Right. But then you got to remind yourself that some of these greats, like Bill Burr. It didn't happen at year 10.
Didn't happen Nate Bargatze.
Yeah, he's this overnight success that's been doing it 20 years now.
20 years, yeah.
Right? And I mean, literally going from a touring comic around the country, probably doing fine, making a living, to now millionaire.
Yeah. Now
right? And like household name in many aspects.
Which is funny because a lot of people, I think, forget that there's a large, and let's just say before this recent comedy boom, I mean, there was a vast majority of the comedians that are working now that are famous were already touring headliners that weren't famous. There was unfamous touring comedians. Yeah. And I think people forget that's a thing that often still exists. It's hard to do now though. It's harder to do.
I think it's well, again, I'd have to talk to somebody like a Burr who could educate me, right? But to me, what I see is I think maybe social media is convincing people that step never existed.
Right.
Because to me, and I could be wrong, but to me, the way it seems, it's like, oh, okay. If I were to take a guy like Nate Bargatze, Bill Burr, plug in whoever, Mark Maron, any of these guys where it took them 15, maybe 20 years before they were huge successes.
Before they were names, but they were still working comedians. They were road comics.
And in the comedy scene, people would have been like, they're incredible, right?
Right.
But I view it as like, okay, if comedy was a company, if this is like 1950 and you're getting a job at a company and you're starting in the mailroom as an open micer, it took those guys 20 years and now they're the fucking CEO of comedy.
Right.
And that was you. So it's like when you get to middle management around 9-10 years, it's like, okay, now you get to work.
Now you get to work.
Now you actually have, now you're in the big boy league, right?
Yeah.
And I think we got a lot of people that are at that spot where it's like, okay, if they like, for instance, like your special.
Yeah.
I
did one of those.
But this is going to be an incredible tool now.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like this is proving that like you are funny. You put this material together. It's out there.
I hope so.
It is. It's already getting. I watched the views, and who'd you release it with again? Was it 4-3? Is what
4x3?
4x3. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
shout out to 4x3.
They've got a great following. They're putting out lots of specials. It looks like that's a good company to be with.
They are doing a really good job.
Yeah,
and I really appreciate all the work they put into it. It's crazy to watch somebody work that hard for your comedy or your work. You know what I mean?
I was all over their YouTube and everything. It's like I like it. I like what they're doing.
It's hard. It's weird to experience. Like I honestly, I'm not gonna say I felt uncomfortable, but I was just like new at it to watch somebody else work that hard for me. And I'm like, I don't, because you don't know how to behave. You're like, because if I see something I don't like, I'm like, shit. Okay, do I say something? Like, am I allowed to? I don't know. I mean, like, do I just trust them? You know?
Yeah.
And that's hard, but you have to step up a little bit and be like, all right, I can't fucking. You gotta cut that out. Or whatever.
So now think about you and the other people that you're in there with on their YouTube page, who are all funny comics too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so really it comes down to now, like, all right, we got these good groups.
We got these groups. Yeah.
Who's gonna work? Who's gonna work?
Yeah.
And keep getting better.
Yeah.
And now that you have this tool that can get you booked more on the road, that can do whatever you want to do with it.
Right.
It's real versatile now, right?
Yeah.
And then who's going to go, that was enough.
Yeah.
I'm good.
That's the best you can do.
And so I'll be interested to see that. And then just as you know, it's like with the amount of clubs we have around here, how many people are we getting now that they do that New Year's resolution? Like, I think I'll try comedy.
Yeah, try comedy.
I mean, because now I think I've been through, so I've been doing this podcast now for 4 years. The pandemic was in there, so it's it's kind of like what you were saying. It's like it's 4, but I feel like maybe 3 because we had to stop it for a minute.
Yeah.
But I've now seen like a couple classes of new people come through and have that experience of like a wave of newcomers, and they're all eager, and then they find out it's hard, and a bunch of people fall off, but then a couple stick with it, and you're like,
stick with it. Yeah.
They're funny, and you start seeing people who were really sloppy at the start.
Yeah.
But now you've seen them work, and you're like, oh
shit,
they're becoming funny. That thing that was really rough, I see it now.
There's definitely I see comics all the time that are just like,
that's just an incredible blend.
Getting better, insane. You're like, oh damn, okay, I better tighten it up because this.
Yeah,
they're coming for me.
Well, and I think DFW and then Texas as a whole now, especially thanks to Austin having its pop, but like that whole triangle between Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Austin, Houston, like this giant space of Texas, that has these comedy scenes. I think they're all just going to start slowly, just
popping.
I think Lord Rogan down there in Austin. I think he's going to be building a lot of it.
President Rogan.
Yeah, but really, it's like all of those scenes.
Well, Austin may have like too many comics. I mean, it's a lot of because you
know
remember,
what? They can just open another club or two, right?
That's true. Well, people are fucking moving to Austin in droves to do comedy, to start comedy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've heard from other Austin comics that are just like, it's insane the amount of people at the open mics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That like maybe there's no room left.
There might not be.
I don't know.
But you know what? If that's the case, then that means there becomes more opportunity in places like this. It's like maybe some Austinites will take trips up to these other scenes and get their licks in there and it's pros and cons all around, right? Well, because on one hand, if you do make it in that overcrowded Austin scene,
okay,
that's going to be good for you that way. But the downside is it may be too full.
It may be too. Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Is like, so the amount of comics in Austin, right? And don't get me wrong, I actually like doing comedy down there. I love Austin. Do you think that it's harder for someone to stand out when there's so many comics? You know what I mean? Like, how can somebody really prevail if there's a million good comics?
You know what? I go to more. Because of this podcast, at least, I go to more open mics than a comedy watcher probably should. I think you should go to open mics if you like comedy. But I try to go to a lot just because I just want to see what people are working on, and like I like to see like who's really working. Yeah, because just because you're not funny yet doesn't mean you're not about to be. Yeah, and to me, it's fun to see like, someone working on this bit, and then a year later when it's really tight, you're like, damn, yeah. Well, they changed this,
but I feel like a lot of comics are losing that because, like not a lot of comics, but a lot of newer comics. I'm noticing, like, for instance, I had a conversation with a newer comic about kind of like that, about like working on jokes, right? And they were asking me some advice. I'm not gonna say their name, but they were asking me some advice about the jokes, right, or whatever. Like, we're all chit chatting, and I honestly said, like, fucking just do it both ways. Like, do it this way at the mic. And as a matter of fact, if you want to, you can go to another mic and try it, or just do it the same way on the same mic. Like, one's gonna bomb, but why does it matter? You've been doing comedy like a year. Like, why does it matter if you bomb?
Well, especially at some of these open mics. Some of these open mics are perfect for that because there's nobody there watching you.
Exactly. And
expecting
if you're
an incredible
6 months into comedy, don't come at me with the answer like, well, if they see me bomb, I won't get booked. Why the fuck are you trying to get booked?
Yeah.
You need to be working. Dude, as much as I love being at this position in comedy right now, what I wouldn't do for like one day to just have no collateral. Just go to a mic, say what I want to say, risk it all. Just eat it to get like, try something weird. I don't know, put on a suit.
But why don't you just do that now anyway?
Well,
why not?
I mean, I do.
Okay,
I take that back. I do.
You know
when
what?
it comes.
Before you answer that,
to
your point earlier, I think what you're describing is a perfect example of what might be happening in Austin. Is I think when you have a ton of people that are all super hungry, right? I think you probably have people who are really working on jokes and really working on their craft and thinking like, I'm going to be so funny that I'll stand out from the noise.
Right.
And I think you will, right? Like we've all been at that open mic where somebody has a minute and a half bit that was just funnier than everything that night. Yeah. And it just was magic, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the beauty of those open mics is it'll be depressing and sad. And you're thinking there's no way this ship's going to come out from the depths of this, right? And then somebody comes up with something new that's really funny and everyone, all of a sudden it's like in a matter of 5 seconds, it's like, whoa, all this energy came from nowhere.
Wow, okay.
And that and that's why I like going to him is like once you kind of feel that, I think as an audience member, not as a comic, as an audience member, I think you learn this whole new appreciation of like when you see someone kill for an hour of like, man, look at that skill, you know? So that's the other side, I think, with a crowded scene is I think you're going to have people working on jokes, working on the craft, getting it to where it's so undeniably funny.
Yeah.
And then I think you're going to have a lot of shock value of like...
Shock value's hot right now.
Yeah, and shock value, it's like, hey, if that's what you got to do, that's fine, but as long as you got something to back it up once you get your moment, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like if Ralph Barbosa had his shock value to get that attention, which he didn't, but if he did... And then they're like, great, we've got this HBO thing lined up for you. And then he had nothing.
He's like, well, I got the same jokes.
Yeah.
And
I said, bitch. But
I mean,
I think you could stand out down there.
Yeah.
As long as you got the material, but you might have to be clever to find an in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so to what you were talking about, it's like, maybe you're at a great point to do some weird stuff because people know you have material now.
That's true.
People know you're capable of doing it. Doesn't that give you a certain amount of freedom of like, maybe I will just go nuts at this Mad Hatter open mic or something.
I mean, oh God, I haven't been in that much.
No,
I haven't really. No, honestly, I haven't thought about it. I mean, well, I'll take it back. I mean, I do write a lot, and I write new shit almost every week. If I don't, I feel a little bad. So I do write new stuff. As far as like taking the act and doing like something different or new, like you said, like experimenting with like music or bringing a keyboard on stage, I have thought about that stuff, and there is a part of me that goes, well, not right now. Let's just make sure we get this hour tight.
Yeah,
and then we'll bring but you're right. I mean, honestly, you're right. I should. I should.
Well, because you have to me, you have nothing to prove at this point.
Well,
we know you're funny.
Yeah,
right.
Well, I hope so. Thanks. I
know you put a special out.
Yeah,
a company wanted you to put the special on their platform.
Yeah, that's true.
And they have a substantial base. They don't have to take you.
Yeah.
So I think that's validation that like I said, I think you've reached that point where it's like we know you're funny. Yeah. Now what do you want to be?
What do you want to do? Yeah,
what do you like to do? Because you know how to make things funny now.
I definitely do want to push it out a little bit. I do want to push it a little further. I want to release another special. I already have the bug for it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not the kind of person to go like, fuck this, I'm done. I'm just like, all right, cool. I'm gonna do another one. This is gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
And I do. You're right. I mean, I do want to do like some different things. I have a music guy.
Yeah.
Music guy. I've wanted to experiment with music on stage. I just don't. Man, I have this thing in my head where I'm like, I don't want to be hacky, bro. Like,
it's hard because you've seen so many bad people go up with acoustic guitars and sing bad songs. But then you get a couple that are genius.
They're genius, and you're like, can I be that good?
Yeah, because I mean, and even like not stand up, but oh my God, what's his name? Keyboard player, Craig Robinson. It's like,
yes,
he what the context of the songs and stuff that he sings really shouldn't be that funny. He's just so incredible at the delivery, right?
Yeah, his delivery is insane.
Yeah, and so it's like, well,
the song about
it can be done
you with a chocolate gun. That sounds creepy.
Yeah,
but when he does it, it's like, what? That's hilarious.
Yeah, there's just
I'm
a certain
sneak in your house and shoot you with a chocolate gun.
He just found that perfect line between, is this for real or is he?
Yeah,
you know, and I mean, because what's the guy who does the puppets? Dunham.
Jeff Dunham.
That should not work. It should not work this day and age, right?
Yeah,
there should be nobody who has a ventriloquist act that sells out like a stadium. Doesn't he do like American Airlines Center? He does.
Dude, he does stadiums.
Yeah.
He was doing stadiums before stadium comics were stadium.
It should not work, but it does, right? Because he found the thing that he loves and he found that way to do it. And so, you know, I think there's something like how many people probably told him like, Jeff, put these fucking dolls away.
People
put these away.
What do
you mean you're making your own terrorist doll? And you think this is going to go well.
He thinks this,
Seinfeld did not have a terrorist doll, right? So, like, think of all the, you know, most of the people given info are not qualified.
Exactly.
You know, but I don't know. I think if anything, that's what social media has shown you. It's like, rather than do what you think people are going to like, just find a way to love your thing and make it your thing really, really good. There's going to be an audience out there.
Well, I'm torn. Well, okay. Last thing you said is I feel like you're gonna fire back at me, but I am a little torn with social media comedy. A little.
Sure.
I'm torn. I'm not 100% on either end. One end, the reason why I'm not hating on social media so much is because people are able to find their own audience now with comedy, and that used to be harder to do. You know what I mean? Mark Maron and Chris Rock, two different kinds of comics came at the exact same time. They were able to do it. Chris Rock has his audience, and Chris Rock was probably, for the most part, considered a mainstream comedian, whereas Mark Maron was touring. Yeah. He had fans.
He was more the punk rock
and he
DIY
had
comic.
A certain but in order for people to find him before social media, it would have been extremely hard. You would have had to go to a comedy club or hear from somebody else. And so I understand why that with social media has made it a lot easier, and why social media is a positive thing when it comes to comedy and having a career, which is really the most important thing, right? And to be able to pay your bills off comedy, social media has made it easier for so many people. But
you got the trash.
On the other end, you have people who, and call me jealous, I'll admit it.
Sure.
I admit it right here on the podcast, right here on daytime television. There are people who have almost no interest in comedy, right? But they have an interest in getting their face on the internet by doing something silly or stupid or getting their point across or whatever.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now that person is making $500,000 a year doing the thing that you've been trying to do for 10 years that you're maybe good at.
Yeah.
Right? And that person's touring the country and yada yada, and I'm not talking about one person. I mean, that's
there's
hundreds
category
of people that are doing that, and some of them sure have the interest, and then I can tell you, I know for a fact one person. I'm not gonna say this person's name, just in case they watch your podcast and I want to go on tour with them. But I know there's a pretty big internet comedian, TikTok person like that who literally had no interest in comedy and was got big doing social media stuff that's arguably funny or not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would imagine most regular people don't think he's that funny, right? But this person had no interest, and then the story I heard is that an agent came to them and said, "Cool, you got all these followers. But how do they make money off you?" Well, you want to do commercials? They're like, "Here's what you do stand up." So he got the idea to do stand up from someone wanting to make money off of him somehow. Because how's an agent going to make money?
Now, after that, was his stand up any good?
No.
Yeah. Well,
and this person's been told that by numerous people, but they don't care because they're making so much money.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, if you're still selling the tickets, though, do you stop?
Of course they're not going to stop, and you can't make them stop.
And it would be hard. Think of it on the other end, right? Like, are you going to think you're bad at stand-up if you're moving these tickets to your stand-up shows?
Yeah.
So it's got to be hard to think.
And to also be bad at it, that's kind of messed up, right? Like, is that not?
I don't know. I mean,
and like I said, look, that's not one individual person, but that's like a multiple.
No, there's a whole group of that. Yeah, there's a whole group of that, and like, I don't like it either because I'm super jealous that I have to work for a living, right? Like, that's the reality, right?
Well, I mean, on the flip side too, I have social media has helped me with stand up. clips, posting things. I've gotten booked based off social media. I've got people hit me up that have never, I mean, for instance, if I do comedy, let's say I got 9 hours of comedy, but if nobody's booking me, no one knows it. And I've had people on the internet book me, not just like, oh, I saw your videos, but like, hey, you're a comedian, send me what you have. So how would they have contacted me or known that I even exist if it wasn't for Instagram? So I can't get that mad about it.
So listen,
you know what I mean?
what you were asking about the Austin comedy scene. Yeah, this is what you're experiencing, but on social media. You're in this overcrowded, noisy room where everyone's fighting for that attention. Right. That's that Austin comedy scene. Yeah, and I think the same holds true. It's like if what you're doing, like there has been a ton of accounts. I'll follow them for maybe 2 months because they do something and I just think, oh my God, this is hilarious. This is so funny. Yeah. And then you see the 10th, 15th clip that's about pretty much the same thing. And you're like, maybe it wasn't as good as I thought it was. You know, maybe it's just a quick
and you just unfollow?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, you know, if it just gets to be, you know, if I realize like, this probably wasn't what I thought it was, I'm just going to unfollow it, you know? Yeah. But then there's gold in there that I think people get led to through those accounts. So that's the upside, right? Is if you're a real comic and you want to find real comedy fans, the good news is these kind of social media stars who bring people into comedy clubs. It's like those people might not have ever stepped foot in those comedy clubs. And so you're getting this whole generation of people who probably will love your comedy. Right. Like for instance, do you ever think about your comedy taste now versus when you very first started watching stand-up comedy?
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So like the first couple things I would have ever seen were probably like the Seinfeld clips that he did at his show. That was probably the very first thing I ever saw about stand-up, the little 30-second whatever. Yeah. I had no concept of what it was. Yeah. Then it was probably either Dane Cook or Blue Collar Comedy Tour. Yeah. Right? That would have been like... and it's like back then you're just like, oh, it's so funny. And it was very funny, right? And then it would have been like... like Kings of Comedy, I think was the Steve Harvey guy that he did that whole same thing like the Foxworthy did, and it's like I would watch that now with an appreciation that I enjoyed it back then, but it would not hit like it did, right? Right. Now, and if I had watched, you know, Louis C.K. back then, I would have been like, this is weird.
Really? You think so?
Maybe. I don't know. So I think maybe there's something.
Can we say his name? I don't think you can.
Yeah, we can. maybe there's something to be said about, you know, like those people. It's going to be like a great introduction to people of like comedy. And so even if they start there, right? It's like
you're right. That's a positive. That's a positive. And like I said, I mean, well, I post a lot, and don't get me wrong, I love posting. I like posting because it forces me. It don't really force me. Like I write every day. Yeah. And so now like I have a thing I can get rid of these jokes with. You know what I mean? Like if I post every day, which I try to, which I don't always, but I try to. I am literally writing every day. So I'm like, this is cool. Like this is what I want to be doing. I want to be doing comedy. Yeah. And so I never post because I feel like I have to. I always post shit because I want to be posting. Like I like the world of social media. It's just that there are some negative things about it that like get to me. I feel like one of the biggest ones that I don't like is the fact that the model of social media comedy has been taken completely out of control. So what we've done, and I think it was Fortune Feimster who said it on a podcast as well. That like when she said it, I was like, all right, I have the validation. Yeah, cool. So someone I looked up to voiced her opinion about it, and I think it was actually her experience is that when she started, right, that generation of comedians, probably like when I started, you know, up until right around social media really popping off, you were able to be a comic like we were talking about based off your abilities and just getting out there. Yeah. But now, comedy clubs, finding a comedy club to let you headline when you don't have 100,000 followers. I mean, bro. I mean, it's rare, and you have to. I mean, it's not going to be the biggest clubs. For the most part, most major clubs now are completely like you have to be. And I think Andrew Schultz said it too. He's like, now because of social media, because of what he did it too, right? Because of social media, I feel like now you almost have to be famous to get work, which is insane. Because it used to be clubs would go, you have an hour? Cool. And they'll give you a shot. They give you a weekend. They would do the work. They would call and sell tickets. They would paper the room. You know, they would go out and bring comedy fans to the comedy club to see the big comedian do his act that no one's ever heard of. That shit's rare now. Now you have to bring the audience. You have to bring people to the club.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad. It's like, well, how long can that really last? We don't know. But I mean, like Andrew Schultz said, he had to be famous to get on Netflix. That's insane. You know what I mean?
Well, so there's a flip side, right? Like, I think every generation's got that struggle.
Yeah.
Because to me, I think that's what I enjoy a lot about the business side of comedy is there's a lot of parallels with the music business as well.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about like Mark Maron, and then you got guys like Kyle Kinane who were kind of going alternative routes when they were coming up, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so there are alternative routes now that you can use to your advantage. So have you heard of like Dustin Nickerson or Zoltan Kazis?
I've heard of Zoltan, but I know Dustin Nickerson's like, comedy more.
So Dustin Nickerson and Zoltan were both kind of coming up at the same time, and Dustin had a little more steam than him, but they were working a lot together.
Okay.
And I had Zoltan on the podcast, and we were kind of talking about it because the first time I saw Zoltan was I bought tickets to watch Dustin Nickerson at what is the bar in Richardson that does comedy shows very rarely?
Richardson?
It's in Richardson. It's in a shopping center, and it's like a music venue. They do it's like a bar that does blues music, and they were putting on a couple comedy shows. But anyway,
I never heard of it.
During the pandemic, I can't remember now. Maybe I think it was like Six Springs Tavern. Maybe
I heard of Six Springs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. How long ago was this? You went to this?
It was during the pandemic.
Holy
Because I remember it was weird.
Really?
It was weird. Yeah.
Okay.
And but anyway, I saw Dustin Nickerson was coming to town. I was like, oh, this guy, he's been funny. I've been seeing his stuff on social media. I'm going to check it out. And I thought it was weird that like he's not at, Improv or Hyenas, like what's going on here, Because by social media standards, he was kind of having a come up. And I thought, that's weird that he's not on one of these stages, know. And because it was him, Zoltan, and then their opener, I think, was a guy named Alec Parent, maybe, who, anyhow, they were just touring together themselves. And they were just DIYing their own shows across the country.
Interesting.
And so they just reached out, I guess, to Six Springs, booked a show, sold their own tickets, and they just did their own like guerrilla marketing themselves of like, got to move tickets. Because I purchased a ticket in advance to watch him at Six Springs.
Cool.
And when we got there, it was a great experience because it was a horrible place for comedy. It was bad. And and to the club's defense, it was in the middle of the pandemic, so I think they had no workers.
Yeah.
So I think it was like the owner was like, I think maybe running the bar.
Yeah.
And the owner's like buddy was like trying to get people through the door. It was chaos.
Come on in, man.
Oh no, he was the exact opposite. Like I think I bought my ticket online, and I either had a digital, I had a digital version, but he didn't know how to check that. But the bar line was probably like 60 people deep.
Holy shit.
Right? Because the poor guy who's back there is just trying his best.
He's just trying to make these.
And like in the middle of pouring drinks, they try to start the show and the microphone's not working or something. So he's got to like put the drinks down. Like, I'm so sorry.
I got to like fix the microphone now?
Yeah. Doing
That's
it all.
pretty punk rock.
Doing it all, right?
Yeah.
And because the place itself was nice. Like it was a fine, it was set up so strangely, right? And, but I'm looking around, because the guy who couldn't scan my ticket or whatever it was, he was like, well, if you want to get a drink, you can wait over here. I was like, oh, that's fine. I was like, I understand. And he's like, but I'm watching you. Everybody was clearly stressed.
Yeah.
But they got it all sorted out. But literally, I think there was probably like 200 plus people there.
Holy shit.
It was packed.
Really?
It was packed.
At Six Springs Tavern.
It was packed.
That's crazy. Okay.
And so that was really eye-opening of like, what the fuck are these guys doing? This is really interesting.
No, that's good. Yeah.
And so when Zoltan came back through, he was kind enough to come on the show, and I got to talk to him about that. And he basically said what you were saying. He's like, we wanted to do this little tour, but we were struggling to get clubs to book us. And so we thought, fuck it, we'll book what we can book. And we'll do the best we can. And he was saying like the Six Springs show was actually kind of like a nicer venue. Like they were doing like, he's like when we were in New York, we were doing like basement shows in somebody's building and like doing really more DIY stuff.
Yeah.
And now they both have like pretty solid careers going.
They have pretty solid careers. Zoltan's huge. I don't really know him as well, but I know.
By the way, Zoltan, I tricked you with the April Fools too. I love it. So I was like, I'm so disappointed.
Oh, you tricked Zoltan?
I did. I was like, okay. I'm so disappointed because he messaged me and he's like, whoa, dude. And I was like, I didn't think I would get you, but thank you.
I think, yeah. But it's a sign that everyone believes that you should get a fucking club.
If I get the money, we'll do it. I just need the money. That's all I need.
Oh, you need money? Dude, how much you need?
Okay. No, truthfully, even if I had the money right now, I wouldn't do it yet because I need to learn a little more.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want to jump in and do something poorly. I want to learn a few more things on that upper level that I don't fully understand yet.
Right.
But he
and Dustin Nickerson, sorry, I think you were talking about Dustin now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dustin and Zoltan, they did that whole tour, and then I think the other guy Alec, I think, was with them on a lot of it. But they just sold their own tickets. They just did all their own shit, all their own promotion.
Yeah,
and that was a big part of what pushed their careers up.
Interesting.
So I think it's like,
and they also probably got better as comics.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're gonna learn so much doing shitty shows,
night
after night after night.
Yeah.
I remember Dusty Slade on his podcast said the same thing about how but another overnight success.
Yeah.
Dusty Slade was a road comic doing he lived off bar shows. For I want to say, I think he was talking about 3-4 years before he popped.
Mm-hmm.
He was literally just like living on $10 shows, and
he
would drive anywhere.
Think through that 3-4 years where you're like, I should fucking quit.
Yeah.
And then think of what the comedy gold we would have missed out on if he did quit.
I know.
We're having fun.
Yeah,
we're having a good time.
But basically you're saying that that's still a possibility to book your own shows.
I think no matter what happens, if you got a little bit of drive, you'll figure it out, right?
Gotcha.
And you just got to go like, what can I do?
Yeah.
And then, it's kind of like, look, if all you're driving is a Kia, I mean, you can't even say that now. Kias are nice now. But if all you're driving is an old shitty Kia, it's like, look, keep it clean, keep it vacuumed, keep it running good. It's still getting you places.
It's going to get you somewhere.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of how it is. It's like, if you know you got a solid set, but and you just need to get in some doors, it's like, look, if you're funny, they want you selling drinks for them.
They want you selling drinks for them.
They'll, and if the clubs aren't giving you those openings, it's like, great, go sell your tickets somewhere else. You can do it. It's just going to be it's going to be harder.
The classic advice that people give still kind of works, where it's like, get so big they have to open the door. Whatever. What is it called?
It's like undeniably talented or something like that.
Yeah. Isn't there a door analogy? There's like
I don't know that one.
It's so don't knock. They have to let. I don't know. Whatever. Get so big they can't ignore you, or something like that. Maybe I added the door myself.
Said.
Yeah. Hey, you heard it here first, man. Here's my daddy always said.
There's some kind of door.
Yeah. When you see a door, no, wait. You got Home Depot. Go to Home Depot. Build your own door. That's not it.
Classic advice. Yeah. When one door shuts, there's maybe another door.
Yeah, when one door shuts, you bust in the window, and now if there's a daughter sleeping in there, you want to turn around, go to the other side. You don't want to mess nobody's key. All right, sorry.
One of my favorite inspirational sayings is in that movie, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, when he's like, man, when life gives you lemons, just say fuck the lemons and bail.
Fuck these lemons.
Great advice. But no, I mean, you said you skateboarded, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all that industry was, right? It's like, if literally, like, they built something, when you think of like the Lords of Dogtown days and stuff, it's like what they wanted to do did not exist, and they weren't welcomed in it. Yeah. And you just fucking go.
They just fucking build their own shit.
I mean, even if we go way off map, it's like Tanya Harding. She was like the white trash woman they wouldn't let in this posh skating thing, and it's just like, but if you're good, they can't fucking keep you out, right?
Keep you out,
So and that's kind of extreme, but I think
the shit. There's a phrase that's like that. It's like, be so good,
they
can't ignore you,
that you hit a figure skater in the leg.
Yeah, something.
With a pipe.
We'll figure. By the end of this episode, you're gonna just go, oh, it's go, Travis.
Yeah, but really think about DFW, all the clubs, all the bar shows, all the opportunities, and then think about just all the little outskirt areas. Like, I just heard there's a club that opened up in Rockwall. I haven't got out to that yet.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have the ability to get a lot of work done regionally around here.
You really do.
That other states don't have that luxury.
No. I would imagine, some do, right? But there's big pockets that don't have a lot of people, because there are people who move to Dallas for comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's rare, but it happens. People do. Or people who live in outer cities will pick Dallas over like going to Fort Worth or whatever.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of, but if you add Fort Worth, we do have a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, I think if you look at us like a Metroplex, you can work and
he's got to drive a lot.
Yeah. But
well, I was going to say, are you Are you familiar with the new club in Fort Worth as well?
No, I've heard about it.
Big Laugh? I don't know anything about it.
No, I've heard that it was opening or they tried to open. It hasn't opened yet. I don't know.
I don't know.
But I mean, that's a testament. Like, there are so many spots. Like, it's hard for me to get to as many shows as I would like to.
Yeah.
Which is a nice problem to have, you know?
Yeah.
Literally, like, there's comics in this roster, in this scene, that I've been trying to watch for like 2 years, and my schedule just doesn't sync up with their shows.
Had you ever seen me do comedy before the taping?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And when I saw you doing the taping, I was like, oh, I want to go see that.
Check
all
this
that
guy sucks.
No, I was excited. My buddy Chris, that he's one of the guys that I'll bring with. Like, anytime I'm like, hey, I'm going to go check something out. Not sure what it's going to be. Yeah. He's like, I'm down. like he rode out to Tyler with me to check out that comedy club.
Oh, cool.
And
cool.
But no, we left and he's like, yeah, he's funny. It's good stuff. Good stuff. So.
Oh, he liked it.
Oh, of course, man. He's in the video too. I haven't showed him yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, he actually helped me with the audio for Lawrence's special.
Oh, nice.
He's like this, loves comedy, and I'm like, hey, do you want to run some cables in a dusty ceiling? He's like, I'm there. I'm like, dude, you're a good guy.
Yeah, audio is we had some issues with audio on.
Who doesn't, man?
You know, that was.
What do you want to talk about the issues? I don't want to like.
We can talk about them off camera.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, that was
as a person who made a special.
Yeah,
you're gonna. I want to see your reaction when we can be a little more on.
I'll give you all the dirt on ours too.
Okay.
Because it was jaw dropping and eye opening to some of the problems you didn't know would happen.
Well, for me, to be quite honest, sorry, I don't really want to start like, and again, maybe it's just me and my dumb insecurities, but like, I don't want to be like making excuses for like this didn't, you know what I mean? Like, the criticism.
No, and that's what we'll talk about afterwards. But I think every project, I think anything that has ever been made, right? Yeah. You go watch Forrest Gump. And if you get everybody involved who made that drinking and talking about it, you'll hear horror stories about like, we had the running shoes. Yeah. One was red, one was blue. Somebody bought the wrong fucking shoes. And it was the biggest scene. Like, there's always problems, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was like over the last several years, I've been really trying hard to accept that you can't control things, that there are always things you can't control. And rather than trying to make everything perfect, it's more about like how much can you adapt.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the people who shot the special, the guys at 4x3, Chase Crawford is the producer and director, and it's his company. I understand the model they're going for. It's kind of like Don't Tell, you know? But God, they're just so fucking talented.
Yeah.
And
knowing that they just show up to a spot,
they just
set up, and let's work with what we got here in this environment. Yeah. Every environment's different, and it's not like you get to come in there 4 days before and set everything up.
Exactly.
They
got, I think, so we started at like 8, I think. They got there at like 6.
Yeah.
I do believe.
Yeah.
And then fucking got in and out, you know what I mean? And it's the lighting. I mean, if I'm going to say one positive thing about my taping, it looks amazing to me. What I
liked that they did from a standpoint of somebody who made something, like now I get to watch these things in a different light, and I get to really appreciate the effort that goes, because it's so easy when you don't do something and you don't know the inner workings to think like they should have done this or that, and like you don't know, right?
Yeah.
But I loved how committed they were to trying to get like the handheld shots of the audience whenever you're interacting.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Where they were like, it wasn't like, well, we got the camera set up, let it ride.
Baby.
Let's get a drink, job's over. Like, you even see in certain clips where they're just going to corners, trying to get these extra little shots, things that make you feel like you're more immersed in the red room with you.
Right.
And it's like, okay, these guys are actually trying to make something good instead of just like, we set up the cameras, Andy. It's all on you.
That's all on you. So we'll see you later. We're going to leave. We're going to have some chips.
Yeah, when you get up there, hit
drinks.
Hit record. Yeah. And
they did a great job, and I think they did. It's crazy because I was obviously disappointed with the numbers immediately, and I was like, fuck, I wanted to get to 10,000 day one, you know what I mean? And, it's crazy because other bigger specials popped that week, that day, and they don't even have the amount that I was hoping to get. So that's how hard it is to get somebody to watch your shit, which is insane, right? Famous comics dropping things, and like they're not even getting the numbers I expected to get on mine. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should chill out. But I still a little disappointed, and then obviously the hate comments start coming in. I start getting
that just means you're doing it right.
Yeah, dude. Oh my god, this one guy said something about I was only on 4x3's platform because of what's it called when you hire black people?
Oh, you're a diversity. You're meeting a quota.
Yeah. Diversity. That was hilarious. I was like, that's funny. Do not delete this comment. Hands down, the funniest fucking dude ever.
Oh.
Somebody was like, "Yo, you should remember that teaching, Mr.
Yeah,
He's like, "Hey, fam, you should have stuck to teaching." I was like, "These motherfuckers are really going at me." But then, I was like, the views suck. And then honestly, I don't know what people locally think. No one was saying anything to me. And I was like, shit, did I put out some shit that sucks? And I shouldn't let that get to me. And I shouldn't let validation be the thing that drives me. But I started getting some DMs from like a couple comedy clubs. I got a DM from a couple agencies. Day one.
Yeah.
Not day one, full day, like next day, I guess you can say. And then today. And I was like, oh shit, maybe it is good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You're gonna be shocked at it's a tool.
Yeah.
Right? It's a tool.
Yeah.
And now it just comes down to like, how do you want, like, to me, when I hear you talking about those comments, it's like, I don't know why you're not putting those out on social. Those are hilarious. Those are hilarious. And like, to me, it's like you just own it. Because I mean, if you perform on any weekend to a sold out crowd, right? There's gonna be the couple people who are like, fuck this guy.
Of course.
No matter who you are.
You get 75% of the room max.
No matter who you are, right? And so to me, that's just because I look at it as like, if you throw that one out there about, diversity, like you were you were the diversity hire.
Yeah.
To me, that would intrigue me to be like, let me check this set out real quick. What are they talking about? Because I would go in thinking like, oh, this guy probably sucks. And then when you see like, it's a comedy set, what are these people talking about?
Yeah.
It's still, it's kind of the old saying, like, all press is good press,
Yeah. Some guy sent me a screenshot of him watching it. And with the words liar. I don't know what joke he was talking about. Yeah. And it was in my like extras, or whatever it's called, Instagram, whatever. And I was like, what's this? So I go to the message and it's this motherfucker's like, he has his hand. I think he's trying to flip me out, but his hand's like right there. And you can see it on his computer and this goes liar.
So fucking weird. That's weird. Why you're not putting these out there?
I'm putting that on my stories,
dude.
Right.
I would put it in part of my bio. I think of like was once called the diversity hire for a streaming platform. I mean, just because look, it's you guys all have thick skin if you're going to do this profession anyway.
Of course.
And it's like, look, they watched it, they commented. That's still helping your algorithm. You're all good, man.
Like, keep watching for that lie.
Yeah, that's. But no, I was there that night when you recorded, and it was funny. I remember writing an article afterwards about it.
You did, yeah.
And,
I didn't understand the title, but
what was the title? I don't remember.
You're like, Andy showed his sausage or something like that, and I was like, what the fuck did Travis just?
Oh, it was something about how the sausage gets made.
The sausage gets made.
Yeah. No, because I mean, I was watching a taping, and then I knew like a weird line about making your sausage on stage, is people would be like, the fuck is it? And sure enough, they did. It was well read, and.
People actually I remember thinking more people read that article than showed up to the damn special.
Well, I mean, not to like toot my own horn, but I would like there to be more people writing articles and things, right? Because I do think that that's something we could benefit from around here is just people who enjoy it, who don't want to perform, but can say like, I saw this or I watched this and it was awesome. Not somebody to shit on it, but somebody to, it used to be, you said you're from Arkansas, right?
Right, yeah.
When did you move here? How old were you?
It was in 2010.
So was like the Dallas Observer still really popping when you came?
They were popping.
Okay, so like the Dallas Observer, it was like the Dallas Observer and Central Track for a little bit were like kind of these spots to find either online or written. Like the Observer, you could go pick one up and just see shows.
I think
and
4x3 actually reached out to the Dallas Observer to at least have a write-up about the special. I don't think they've got back to him.
Well, so I made a vinyl record for a band. Like we put on a show, recorded it, and made a vinyl. And it was like a vinyl exclusive done here in Dallas.
That is cool.
You can't even stream it.
What band?
And I'll give it to you. I got them here. I'll give you one. It's a band called Brave Little Hal.
I can have one of the records?
Yeah.
You know I'm a vinyl guy, right?
Oh, here, grab that one right there.
Yeah. Well, here. You gotta get it right now. Okay. Oh, all these fucking... Oh, shit.
Well, that's all that's left. We ordered a lot. But it doesn't. You can't stream it anywhere.
Cool, dude.
And so we did a show in this cabin.
Yeah. All right. I'm a vinyl guy. So like this is a really big deal to me. I'm not pretending.
I think you're gonna like this. We put a lot of effort into it. If you like it, then just go on social and give a shout out to Brave Little Hal. They're a phenomenal local band. But
I thought about pressing our audio on vinyl too, but sorry.
Yeah. That's something I really want to do. It's just expensive. Like
it's expensive. You can do it. My only issue was with like, okay, I was like, am I going to print enough to sell, or I just want to do these for fun to give out to a couple friends? That's probably the better idea.
Okay, well, I'll tell you how this went down.
Sorry.
Because you were talking about reaching out to the Observer. And I found it was incredibly difficult when I did this album to find any of those like tastemakers. You know, because I was not telling someone like, please do this. I was saying like, we made this thing. I'd like to send you a copy. If it resonates with you, maybe consider writing something about it. If not, just give it to somebody you think you might like it. You know, not saying like, we've got the best thing and you'd be lucky to write an article about it, you know? And I realized, and I still tell this story, and I like D Magazine, but this one thing just irked me so much. At the time when I was trying to find promotion for this, I reached out to a person on social media that was claiming to be their music editor, and it looked like they were on the website. It looked like it was their music editor, right, for D Magazine. And I was like, hey, would love to send you this thing. Give it a listen. Here's what we did, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, I don't have a record player. And it's like, what? It's like, do better, man. Well, you're a music editor.
What kind of music editor doesn't have a record player?
I don't know. And so that really irked me. And I like D Magazine. I'm not trying to shit on them. But that's when I started to realize, like, oh, man, the people, like you've got your people in the spotlight. You got your performers, right? And then you've got a layer behind that, which are people who write about things, review things, promote things, you know, like your friend that would show you the new thing, the new music, right? Someone who will go to shows and be not the famous person in order to try to tell you about a new thing. Right. And I realized it's really hard in this town to find that.
It's very hard.
It's hard. And
does the Observer still have do they still like write that way? I mean, I honestly haven't seen their stuff. And Central Track, they still around?
Central Track's dead. They're gone. And Dallas Observer and Fort Worth Weekly, all those places, I think they're doing the best they can, but it's a digital world and it's more difficult. But yeah, it's hard. So like when you're releasing your thing, it's like it's hard to find these outlets now.
It's hard to get anybody to really care. You know, I mean, and not even maybe attention spans. You know,
I don't think so.
Playing a part? No.
Well, a little. But what I tell people now, it's like the most popular show in the world is Joe Rogan, and his shows are consistently over 2 hours.
Shows are fucking 2 hours long. You're right.
Right. So
I mean, Game of Thrones.
I don't think it's an attention span. Yeah, I think it's just are you doing what you can to find your audience that will engage with it? Which that's the tricky part, right? They're out there. They're out there, right?
They're out there.
You've done too many shows where people laugh at your whole set for you to think like, no one's gonna like it.
No one's gonna like it,
right?
But
you know, it's an interesting. I think about those things all the time because all the old rules feel like they've gone away, but really it still comes back to like, you know, you just got to be a little creative, work really hard, and you're probably going to find that audience somehow. But it's real easy to say to do that.
It's really I mean, it's really hard to put something out there and then not know what anybody thinks about it. Like that, I feel like that's a tough one too.
Yeah,
because you expect to know immediately, and then like you said, the comments start coming. And you can't take those seriously. So that's not the real opinion, right? You're like, shit, somebody's got to write about this. Somebody's got to tell me. Somebody's got to put this shit online.
Yeah.
You know, and panic mode starts to come in, you know, you start to settle in. And
well, like, like you were talking about pushing the vinyls, right? And because I would love to press Lawrence's audio as vinyl.
Yeah.
I think that'd be super fun.
That'd be cool.
And it just comes down to cost. And I don't mind doing it. Like with this, what we did was, you know, we made it, but like, the way I got it out there was, so I reached out to as many people locally to try to write something about it or review it or whatever. But then there's all these vinyl, you know, aficionados who like to show off their collection all the time. And so I just started reaching out to them and was like, can I send you a vinyl? And if you dig it, you'll show some love, you know?
Oh,
and they were like, fuck yeah, absolutely. And so I tried to take a little page out of like Jack White's showmanship. You know, he's known to be like an attention to detail guy.
Interesting.
So it's like I tried to make sure packaging was like on point. It was something where when you got it, you felt like you got a little surprise.
Yeah.
It's like even the shipping packaging, I was trying to do as best as I could.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. There would be handwritten like thank you notes and everything, and like try to make it as personal as possible so they knew like we're trying very hard with this.
Yeah.
And every single time it's like they'd get it, they'd listen to it, they liked the whole concept, and then they would make a post or two talking about how they love it, and then we'd move a few more copies online.
Nice.
And then I think they got a few more fans, and then it's just consistency. And these guys are like they have family and stuff, and they can't. There's 6 of them in the band, and they can't just go on like a massive tour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like if they could rinse and repeat that, there'd be no denying that they're going to succeed.
They're going to succeed. Yeah.
But that's everybody's struggle, right? It's like you can't. These guys can't just drop everything. They got mortgages and stuff.
Yeah. So it did cost you quite a bit to get it going, or to print them.
It's a double LP.
Oh shit!
It's expensive.
I was wondering. It's a little heavy. I was like,
there's 2 records in there.
Two records in there?
Yeah,
Okay.
and the idea was there's this cabin on White Rock Lake called Big Thicket, and it's a cabin that you can rent for like a birthday party, whatever you want to do. Yeah. Anybody can rent this thing.
Is that where they recorded?
That's where we recorded.
Really?
And so they came on the podcast early on, and Mark, the guitar player, was like, "Hey man, we were really thinking about maybe coming on your podcast, doing like a couple acoustic songs or something, just for fun." And then I don't remember exactly how it was working, but at the time I was like running and riding a bicycle. I'd go by that cabin all the time because we live in East Dallas over there. And I remember thinking like, I don't want to, I'd like to record them in like a cooler environment. Maybe we could find somebody's like living room or something.
Okay.
And then I saw that Big Thicket thing and I was like, we could rent that out and have like a fun night with like 50 friends to watch a cool show and then just like record a song. And maybe if 1 or 2 of them are pretty good, we'll release them on the podcast or something. I don't know. And then the more the wheels started turning, I was like, we should do a show that doesn't have a PA, doesn't have anything. You're watching them like you would watch them in your living room.
Interesting.
And then we'll put mics up all around the room to record it that way. So it's recorded in a way like if you were to just chilling with them in that cabin, and there's no stage, there's no nothing. You're just sitting on chairs and stuff around them.
Yeah.
And it came out pretty good. They just played for like, I think it's a little over an hour.
Okay.
And they do the typical like talk a little bit between a song about whatever, but there are 0 edits.
Interesting. Okay.
So there's like a couple little flaws in there that I think make it perfect. that the band were like, "Are we really gonna?" And I'm like, "I like it." And thankfully, they came on board.
Nice.
But I thought what I enjoyed about it was that, you hear a couple flaws, but then that also kind of lets you know, like, oh, those amazing parts they're doing. There's no studio magic.
Interesting.
They nail it. And just
exactly right there.
Yeah, and like there's one of their songs where it's got this breakdown where he's singing and they're like clapping, and a lot of the people that were at that show that night, they all knew the song really well. So all of a sudden, everyone in that cabin
like singing
is
along.
doing this clapping sing along part, and it's like overpowering the actual band.
Yeah,
and it's this moment that was just and afterwards, I was I didn't know how it was going to go. I was like, I was worried. I was worried people were going to get drunk and just be like, play Freebird and like fuck everything up. And it was a weird moment. Everybody was so into it that they were literally like waiting until between songs to like crack open a beer. So they like didn't get on the recording. And they were all into it. And it was just this really cool experience that everybody was happy with. So once we had the songs recorded, I had to kind of sell it to them. They didn't know I was thinking of all this. I was like, here's kind of what I'd like to do. I made them come to the old podcast studio. I made them like sit in there. There's rules for how you should listen to this, and we followed the rules.
LSD.
Yeah, we followed the rules of like it's written in there of what you should do, and I gave them like the whole kind of experience, and then we listened to the record front to back, no stops, no nothing.
Nice.
And like you'll notice when you open it, like there's no grooves to select songs.
Really?
Because the idea is like find a time to just listen to a record and kind of like be immersed.
Be immersed in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's something that's hard to do in like a Spotify world.
It definitely.
Right? And so I thought it's probably a big ask. A lot of people won't do it, but the once a year that you do it, it's going to be a cool listen.
I've been finding myself doing that less and less. And that's the thing that has bothered me a couple times. But I'm like, man, I never like just chill and listen to these records I have anymore. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of why I started buying, or like how I started buying records, and then I started listening to, because I listen to music all the time. I did the same thing with CDs. Yeah. Where we would just put a CD in and listen to music. Yeah. When I started buying records, I did the exact same thing. And then Spotify hits, and then you listen to Spotify in your car, and then you go home. And then there'll be times when I'm like like cooking or something, and I'll put it on Spotify and I'll go, nah, you can't don't do it. Go put the record, just go put the fucking record on.
Yeah.
Just go put the record on. Go, just walk over there.
Yeah.
And do it. You know, you have to train yourself because Spotify's so easy. And if you don't have the record, you know what I mean? You can just pop it, you know, but
I think there's a lot to learn from that, right? Because like you were saying, growing up in the era of CDs, we're about the same age. And so CDs were my main medium of music, right?
Yeah.
And albums.
I'm 8 tracks. I'm just kidding.
But, you know, albums, CDs, much like records, there was a theme to this album.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I missed that.
And it's like this record, this album, this CD, whatever it was this thing. It was like that moment.
It was the moment in time for that band or group or whatever, and you saw them be that record.
Yeah.
And then there was the art.
Yeah.
And you got to flip through it. You got to see all that shit.
And then like there was just enough mystery, but then there was just enough details in the booklet and stuff that you felt like I'm connecting with these people. This is fucking awesome.
This is crazy. And you read the lyrics and shit along.
And there was no like, I'm checking out this song. You put the CD in. And you could skip around, but most people were like, I'm listening to this whole
from beginning to end.
And it's like all those great CDs that had like the like the lost art of the weird stuff in between the tracks.
Yeah. The interludes.
Yeah. Or like the on CDs where like after song 15 every 2 seconds it would be like song 16, song 17, 18, and it would get to track like 99 and then there'd be a hidden song.
Who did that?
A bunch of
hidden song. I'm trying to
bunch of people, but it was just like
I remember the
when someone was like, "Did you ever hear the hidden song?" You're like, "The hidden song."
Yeah.
It was a huge thing, and like you can't do the hidden song on Spotify.
Yeah,
and so there was all this cool shit. And that to me is what the record still has. Is that kind of mystique, you know,
and the hidden song,
and you can make a whole encompassing thing, you know, like you know what, from your special, you were talking about your dad's nickname, Cooley High. You know what that made me think of immediately?
What
was the Boyz II Men Cooley? Isn't it Cooley High Harmony? Is their?
I think so. It's a movie.
Okay, but it was
it's a movie.
It's the one with 70s. Motown Philly on it. Whatever that album is,
okay.
Boyz II Men. But I thought it was like Cooley High Harmony or something.
It might be.
Is the name of the album. But anyway,
it's a classic movie. It's a classic like black movie from like the 70s. And I do
wait. Cooley High is a classic?
High, yeah, I've seen it. It's been years. But I remember there's a character in it that smokes a shit ton of weed.
Since we don't have Jamie,
also,
I'm going to look it
up. Yeah. Jimmy, could you go ahead and bring up
Cooley
High
that
for me?
Yeah.
But Cooley High.
Yeah. No, but it was their breakout, you know, whatever. And I was like, I got to go listen to that record now.
Yeah.
But
you kind of lost me on Boyz II Men. I wasn't.
You don't like Boyz II Men?
I just
get out of here.
Different genre.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cooley High Harmony.
Cooley High Harmony. Look up Cooley High the movie.
Cooley High. Okay, I'll have to check that out then. So that's like a black culture movie that I should know about.
Yeah, but it's old though. It's older than both of us.
Okay.
It should be.
Oh wow, that is like super old.
How old is it?
75.
Yeah.
I mean, just by the artwork on it, you can tell it's old school. All right. You've watched it though? Is it good?
Yeah.
Good movie?
It's on Amazon. Yeah. Yeah.
Is it a comedy? What is it?
It's like a dramedy.
They say it's a comedy romance.
It's a comedy romance.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, dude, that Boyz II Men album is something I've known about for decades, and I had no idea it was connected to that movie.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And I don't listen to Boyz II Men, so I didn't know they had a song called Cooley High, man.
It's got one of my favorite little verses that, like, when I re-listened to it, I was like, how did I never hear this line? So in Motown Philly, you know, they're talking about like they're coming up because they're from Philly, but they have this style, right? And
Boyz II Men.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, ABC, BBD.
Yeah, ABC.
And which I was always like, when you listen to it later, you're like, wait, BBD, is that big? No. And then it's like, oh, it's Bell Biv. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
But they got a line where it's the guy with the deeper voice comes in and he's like, jet black Benz, plenty of friends, and all the Philly steaks you can eat. It's like, what the fuck is that? All the Philly steaks? How did I never hear that before? Such a cheesy.
That's what he says?
Yeah, he's like, it's like the higher pitched vocals are like, jet black Benz, plenty of friends. And then he comes in, he's like, and all the Philly steaks you can eat.
All the Philly steaks. He's like, hey, man. Why you keep saying that?
But I just love that they're in the studio and they're like, perfect.
Let it stay.
Perfect.
Yeah. It's just like more cowbell. That's funny, dude.
And I don't know, but just those little things. It's like
the best interludes and the best like sketches, or I guess you want to say, on records.
Yeah,
hands down, Wu-Tang. I think Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
36 Chambers, when all the little sketches and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
dude.
Well, think about how much that immerses you in, like, their personalities and their
ridiculous,
world.
too, because it was like a big deal. Well, now people would think it's cornball. You know?
Yeah, but think too, like, in that era of hip hop, it like They were so good that you didn't think about it.
Yeah.
But what they were doing was weird.
Wu-Tang?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Right. So it's like if you weren't so good, you'd be like, these dudes are losers.
Yeah.
They're so like, what do they do? Why are they so into like Taekwondo and shit? Like,
yeah. You're like, do they think they're Chinese? I
Yeah,
think these folks
like-
think they're Chinese. Yeah.
And
You
so,
gotta admit, you have to do. You really have to think back about how weird people probably thought they were.
oh yeah.
And if you watch the Wu-Tang Saga, they tap into it a little bit on how like mostly it was only white people that were on board with them.
Oh.
And they do have a huge white audience. I mean,
Yeah.
if you ask the average black person, they're probably not really into Wu-Tang. They had a big coffee shop white dude.
That's interesting.
Following at first.
Yeah.
So do the Roots.
Yeah.
And actually, that's where I get that line from. Black Thought has I forgot what album, but he has a song where he says in the beginning it was just coffee shop chicks and white dudes.
Oh,
And I don't know what he rhymes it with.
Yeah,
But Wu-Tang, I mean, because they came out comical, they definitely came out right out the gate with like, we're Chinese, right? And then like doing like weird little innuendos about like naming different parts of the hood after parts of China and like different, dynasties and shit. And I don't think black people were, for the most part, were sold, and they had a logo. What rap group had a logo back then? You know what I mean?
The only other group I think that was like that in the weirdness where people didn't know how to take them was Outkast. Because Andre was
perfect example.
weird.
Yes, Outkast,
and I love it, man. To me, it's like the thought, because he's got lyrics on one of the albums where he's talking about how like the dudes from their neighborhood, big boys rapping about like how people are coming up to him talking about Andre, and they're like, "Is he on drugs?" They're like, the lyric is something like, "Is he on drugs? Is he gay?" Like,
he gay? Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
and and it's like, why? Because he wears sparkle pants with no shirt and a big fro. What are you talking about,
what are you
dude?
talking about, man? Why? Because he's wearing bell bottoms and a crop top? Why, bro?
But the albums were so original.
I got the same thing. Yeah, that's what I was going to say about Wu-Tang is like, I'm sure on the surface people were like a little apprehensive, but then they all had bars. I mean, that whole group was full of stars. Every single one of them in their own could have been a solo artist, and I think could have been the biggest. You know what I mean? Especially,
it's probably the only example in rap. Like rock music has a lot of bands. Like like the Beatles all did solo projects, right?
Right.
They might be one of the really. That's probably the shining example in hip hop of people who could go off and do their own thing, right? And it was I mean,
not all of them had good commercial success, but they all did have solo albums.
I mean, the only other thing would have been like what, NWA probably
that actually had like actual careers.
That had like really great solo careers.
Yeah, NWA may have been the only ones. I mean, because Wu-Tang, the only people that had good careers was Meth and Raekwon. Not as big as Meth. Meth was probably the biggest, and then RZA. But he got bigger with like movies, pretty much.
Yeah, but it's still his own. Like he had his own. Yeah. He didn't have to depend on the group solely.
Yeah, Ghostface kind of had a good career. I think Inspector Deck is probably the most strongest.
But if you put any of them on a stage, if you were like, "Hey, so and so showing up tonight," everyone would be there.
Everyone would be there. ODB hands down was probably the most like well known.
Yeah.
But that's just because he was weird. I'm not gonna say he was less talented, but he definitely wasn't like bars wise on par with like the rest.
But he had
that quality, he had that thing that was just like, this motherfucker is insane.
Wasn't he Ghetto Superstar? Yeah, the single Ghetto Superstar. Yeah, I was showing that song to my wife maybe like 6 months ago. I was like, "Do you remember this?" And she's like, "Oh my god."
Yeah,
and it was like. You listen to how simple that song was and the concept behind it, and then you listen to how good he is.
Yeah.
And you're just like, hip hop really isn't the same anymore.
No.
It's not that good.
Not.
Like they were, I think maybe that's what, like Wu-Tang, Outkast, it's like, you would never mistake that for another person.
No.
You're never going to hear ODB and go, who's
yeah.
Is
You're
this,
never going to hear,
And now I feel like you put a lot of that on.
Like Method Man, maybe. You're never going to hear Meth and go, who is that going, ooh, who is that? It's Meth, bro. That's what that is. Yeah.
Pick your art. I think... And I know you're going to agree with me, but like 90s, 2000s music in general, I think that was one of the biggest things that was going on that we miss right now is there was so much originality.
Thank you. That was it.
You put
original. That's what we try to say to these kids.
It
was the originality that we don't have anymore.
Well, like you could put on any radio station And the first 10 seconds of a song, you're like, it's so-and-so. This is who it is right now.
Yeah.
You would never mistake like a Smashing Pumpkins song for someone else.
Correct.
Right?
I like how you're blending genres, but yes.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
But also we were in a time where the radio would mix those genres.
Yeah.
You would hear Outkast on the same station as Smashing Pumpkins.
Smashing Pumpkins. And you would never listen to an Outkast song and think it was, I'm trying to think of somebody else that was around then, Goody Mob or Dipset. Like, you would never think, which is so crazy because that just happened to me the other day. I was in a car with somebody and they were playing Metro Boomin and Don Oliver, I think it is.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd heard the song before. I swear to God, bro. We're listening to the song. I look over just to look at like who it was on the screen or whatnot in the car. When I saw those fucking names, first off, I hadn't quite heard of either one of them. I had heard of Metro Boomin, but not the other dude.
Uh-huh.
And this song it's a very popular song bro. I thought it was Migos for like the past year. I thought that was Migos forever. They all sounded, when I listened to, there was another song. I thought Future was what's the dude's name? Oh fuck! Come on! 2 Chainz.
Yeah.
I thought Future was 2 Chainz for years. Every time when I heard it, I was like, "That's 2 Chainz."
Even if you go really mainstream, it's like you never would have mistaken like 50 Cent for Ludacris.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You may prefer one.
DMX.
Yeah.
Original.
They had, I think the last person to talk about that recently was like Snoop Dogg was talking about all the modern rappers.
Oh, when he was making
about how like you don't have any style. You don't have your thing.
When you talking about the video where he was, because Snoop Dogg's funny as shit, by the way. When he was talking about how like all the rappers are like moaning and shit.
Yeah.
And he's like, these niggas had me moaning. He's like, whoa, fuck, I don't rap like that. What am I doing?
No. And and he has his own style. He never wavered from, and nobody else can touch it.
There is a YouTube video, and I bet you it's probably made by someone who's really into music, where they play a bunch of like 90s and early 2000s like rappers, like real quick, 10-second clips, and then they play a bunch of like new rappers, and like this shit is exact same beat, same cadence, same rap.
If I have to keep hearing the da 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 da,
I can't take it anymore.
And it's like, also there are other melodies.
Every area.
Yeah.
Do you remember whenever like it used to be like the West Coast had a sound, the East Coast had a sound, and you could identify the South had a sound, and it wasn't like, oh, let's keep you in boxes. It was like, this is what we have come from.
Yeah.
And then they did it their own way. And now, bro, you couldn't tell where a rapper. I could play a rapper I'd never heard of from the 90s. I can tell you what area they're from.
Yeah.
I bet you I could tell you what city in a country they're from. Now it's like, bro.
Yeah, it would be that way, right? Because like in that kind of like more, it's not pop rap, but it's like more popular names, right? Like you had like Eminem, Paul Wall. Like these people were from regions.
Right.
And there was a style to that region that was undeniable because they had their own set of producers there. They had their own things going.
Right.
Even here, man, I grew up in a small-ass country town, right? We were going to CD stores in Plano to try to get music.
Yeah.
And we found out there were like Dallas artists. There was like Mr. Pookie and Mr. Lucci.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know how famous they ever got, but it was a very...
Mr. Pookie got pretty big.
It was a very Dallas sound, though. Yeah. And you were like... You would never mistake that for another one,
and I think that really identifies the originality then too, because at that point the buyer, the consumer, can go, I really like this. I'm really into East Coast shit right now, and like these, I like, what I mean, like I've been listening to a lot of West Coast music lately, whatever the case may be. Yeah. Now it's like, what are you into? Mm-hmm. And it all sounds the same. How are you going to identify your taste?
Yeah.
You can't, you know what I mean? Like if it's
when was the last time you think you went to a like a local concert? Not like a famous person.
Not a famous person concert?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So I just had a musician on here, this band called Mean Motor Scooter, and they've been here for a minute. They've been doing it for like a decade around here. And we were talking about like ways to keep your scene healthy. Again, those parallels of like music and comedy. I feel like the comedy scene is very healthy right now. And I feel like our local music scene is struggling.
Really?
I think so. Well, what was the last local show you went to? What was the last local venue you went to say like, oh, I'm going on a Thursday night to watch this concert?
Yeah.
It's tricky, right?
It is very tricky.
And
holy shit.
I don't have the answers, but like Deep Ellum used to be the music area. There'd be 5 or 6 good shows happening
happening at the exact same time.
Yeah. And so I think social media has like done a number on that for a moment, and people haven't figured out how to recover. Yeah. But I think that's part of what's hurting that regional sound that you're talking about. Because I think used to, like, let's just say you're talking about hip hop, right? These guys were all probably going to some spot, like something similar to like what an open mic would be in comedy. Yeah. Right. And they're probably just fucking around, playing music, getting up there working on shit, right? And it's loose. And then all of a sudden they start like, I like that, man. We should collaborate on this. Yeah. The same way with more rock music, right? It's like you'll go to open mic, do some songs. All of a sudden you found a drummer, bass player, and now you got a band. Yeah. And I think we're missing that right now. Yeah. Because I don't see any.
Like where is there a place for local music? Are there places around that?
There's a lot. But this is the sentiment. That's the thing is, for some reason, the mass group is not hearing about it. Right? Because there are just as many music venues right now as there are comedy venues. Right. But you guys are kind of crushing it right now.
Well, we're in a comedy boom.
Sure, but we're in a comedy boom. But that doesn't mean it has to be a comedy boom locally. I think right now you got a lot of people locally that are hustling in terms of performers and clubs. Yeah. There's always people who could work a little harder, but there's a lot of people working very hard right now, Right. And in music, I think they're struggling.
They're struggling.
Yeah, I don't think they've figured out. I think they're in that mopey zone where they're like, the social media ruined it, and like now it sucks, and it's like how people are really.
So there's like people who aren't putting out their own music locally, and
a bunch of people are putting out their own music.
They're putting out, but they're just not playing.
They struggle to get traction. If they do play, they struggle to move tickets. There's not as many. Like I think KXT is the only. Is it KXT? Oh, I feel bad. I'm even forgetting about it. There's only one radio station right now that is playing like a local show. Yeah. Where they'll play local artist music, and they do it on like Thursday night.
Which I think I think there is an underlying problem there where they're when you said they're struggling to sell tickets. Because I remember going to local shows and there'd be fucking ton of people. Growing up, I went to punk shows all the time. Yeah. That's where I spent my time. I wasn't skating. I was into punk rock a lot. So yeah, going to local shows was like the thing. That's what we did. Going to see fucking punk bands that were famous to us. You know what I mean? Like nobody ever heard of. They didn't even have. They had a one tape. Or they record their own CD with no art on it. You know what I mean? They just wrote their name on it.
True DIY, love of music. I
can still name local bands from Arkansas that fucking. I've Googled them, like, where the fuck is these guys now? Yeah. Like they're teachers or whatever, they're professors or something now. But
and if you were in the punk rock scene, then you know how like to your point about hip hop, it's like the punk rock scene also had their East Coast West Coast moments, right? Yeah. You would have these areas that had their famous people.
They did.
Right? So it's like...
and arrogance as well.
Yeah, well, sure. Yeah. Plenty of that. But you had like Minor Threat out east that did their thing, and they were real big on like, we're doing a show that's never going to exceed this price, and we'll do it in the rec center or whatever.
Right, yeah.
And then, it's like Green Day, Rancid, and NoFX all came out of that... oh my God, I'm blanking on it now, but up in like the San Francisco Bay Area, and it's like if that scene wasn't happening, you wouldn't like to think about if that scene didn't exist of these losers just playing music because they loved it. You would not have Green Day.
You wouldn't have Green Day. I was going to say
they wouldn't exist.
Green Day would not exist if you didn't have a local punk scene. That's just the way because DIY and punk rock music go hand in hand, and the do it yourself and making shit happen for yourself comes from punk rock. Now it's a popular thing, and it's part of pop culture. But like when we were growing up, even the acronym DIY was a very punk rock thing. Yeah. If you were to do that and you were trying to be mainstream, you were either like it was like you just hustling. Yeah. Or people would be like, I don't want this shit, man. You're not famous yet. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that now is starting to become a thing again, and it's starting to take over. Like if punk bands can't sell tickets for people to just come see this unknown band in an art gallery or whatever the case may be, I think there's a problem, right? Am I not like?
Yeah. I think you're. Isn't it
but
funny?
It could be oversaturation because now there are 1,000 people throwing out their shit on Spotify. Everybody's putting out. I'm one of them. Everyone's putting out comedy specials. Everybody's putting out their albums. Everyone's in a band now.
If that's the case, then how do you feel about like? And
that's just a guess.
Well, I think about it a lot because I don't have an answer, and then there's always the looming question of like, am I just getting old?
Right. yeah. Like, am I just
maybe it's all happening? And
yeah. Maybe there's an actual world of happy people.
Yeah,
but they're living their lives.
But when we were talking about going to watch those shows, it was pre-social media, it was pre-smartphone, so you were fully immersed in the experience.
True. We can't be too old, okay?
This was, but this was a moment, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that Rogan does well with his comedy club. Is my understanding is they all have those bags that you put your cell phone in for the shows.
Right.
So there's no distraction.
There's no distraction.
Pure show. You have to live in that moment. And so I do think a lot about, maybe we. Sometimes I think, do you go away from releasing content and just start focusing on like, oh, did you check out so and so's show? And they're like, oh, no, where's the clips at? And it's like, no, man, you had to be there. That was it. Yeah. You missed it. And that's kind of why we did this record this way and didn't want to stream it. It's like, no, you listen to the vinyl or you don't listen to it. And it's never going to make money. We will never make a lot of money off this.
I think that's
it's
the
just
problem.
A fun thing.
I think we do. We have seen more than ever, more people make, and maybe that's the problem. We've seen more people make money or a living or whatever the case based off of that little bit of simplicity. And I think maybe that motivates too many people, but that motivation, like maybe there's been like too much of a merger of like, it used to be like, I'm just going to do this from whatever. I don't care. I'm just making my art to like, oh, I'm just going to make my art. I'm just going to put it out there, see if something happens, to like, I'll put it out there and I've made a shit ton of money. And so now we've skipped. And now it's like, I'm going to make a band so I can be famous and I'm going to do it all myself. There's never, because I would imagine punk rock, sometimes in rock music and then maybe sometimes in hip hop, a lot of people mostly were, let's say, trying to make their art, right? Trying to make their album. And then it wasn't happening. And that motivation had them go, look, let me just put some out myself then. Fuck it. If these labels won't fuck with me, I'll just print my own mixtape. But now it's like, I'm going to start rapping. I'm going to make a mixtape. I'm going to fucking do it myself. I'm going to get 1 million followers. There's no more like even wanting the industry, which I've seen in comedy as well. I would imagine the same thing's happening in music. I'm pretty sure it is because I've seen the little examples. But in comedy, that's kind of been the thing because with comedy, most comics we know of that, the older generations and then the comics like, popping now, right? That was kind of their truth was like they were trying to get into clubs. They wanted to be on Comedy Central. They wanted to get on Netflix. Yeah. And then they couldn't do it. Like Andrew Schultz, for whatever reason, these gatekeepers were not letting them in. So they said, I'm just do it myself. Well, now we have a whole generation of people being like, I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm going to do it myself. Yeah. And I'm going to be 6 months in and I'm going to put a special out because no one is booking me the headline. And that I actually have seen. And so you're like,
it's like you almost need a certain amount of gatekeeping.
Yes.
To piss someone off.
I know we sound so old.
I know.
But we fucking need a gate.
But
one little gate.
But I think about it a lot. Of like, think of some of the incredible record labels that did exist who didn't screw people over. And it was like, you could trust like, oh, if they got signed to this, that's worth my time to check it out.
Right.
Like I think a lot about guys like Fat Mike from NoFX,
right?
Jack White with Third Man Records.
Yeah, they
make a lot of bad business decisions, right? And then a couple really good ones, I think, float the rest of it. But they go, what do I like? I like this.
I like this.
I'm going to put this out. This is my label. This is why I do it.
That's pretty cool.
And I think that's like that. Maybe that's the kind of gatekeeping you need, where it's like. They don't care if you've got this big following. Maybe they do a little bit, but really it comes down to like, oh, I've seen them perform. They're awesome. I like them. I'm going to put them on my label. And like from that, like another example is like, have you heard about what Fat Mike opened in Las Vegas?
No.
The Punk Rock Museum.
Oh, I've heard the Punk Rock Museum.
Yeah. So that's Fat Mike from NoFX. He did the whole thing.
That's his thing. Okay.
And and it's like, I don't know that that's ever going to make a lot of money.
Probably not.
But how fucking cool
is that?
You can go there and they have like jam rooms, like whatever bands he's got in there, they set up like, this is the rehearsal space we were in when we were doing this.
Interesting.
So they like replicated their garage or whatever they were.
No way.
And they have the band's amps, drums.
That is cool.
And to my understanding, I think you can like pick up the guitar and jam.
You can jam?
Yeah, I think.
Interesting.
I think. And they'll do like concerts there. Like they'll have, this band when they debut that space or whatever, they'll come in and you can come watch them perform in their mocked up rehearsal space that was the one they started in, and it's like all this stuff that's just good for the culture of it. Of like, one, it's never dead unless you're going to let it die.
Right.
You got to be a steward of these things. You got to have passion. And it's like, two, it's like, it's punk rock. We don't give a shit if it doesn't make a lot of money. This was never what it was about.
Right.
And what scares me is when guys like that move on. It's like, we got to have this generation of people when they die who care that much. Right?
Right.
You have to.
Yeah.
It's like, you've got to have someone, like, for instance, in the comedy scene, we need one of these club owners. I don't care who it is. Yeah. Right? I've got my favorites, but I don't care who it is. We need
Who's your least favorite?
I bet a lot of people could figure that out without me saying it. But no, like, there has to be somebody who cares so much about it and will put their money where their mouth is to defend it, to give people stage time that deserve it, even if they're growing, even if they're, and people who are like, I don't give a shit about this part. I think this is funny. Yeah. I think this person could do something, and we're going to nurture that here.
Right.
And they're part of us.
Right.
And we're, you know what I mean?
Right.
That kind of respect of like, we need you and you need us, and it's about the art of comedy. Yeah, it's about selling drinks and selling tickets so we can keep the doors open, but it's about, can this person make something incredibly hilarious?
And I think also a big component is, does this person really love it?
Yeah.
And I could be overstepping a little bit when it comes to that because, being too much of a purist and an old man. But I kind of take that from punk rock, whereas like, I was in bands, growing up and stuff, and like, God, and my friends, their bands were shitty, but they just loved it. Venues let them play. Venues, the pizza restaurant would let them play and fucking just be terrible for 45 minutes, jumping around on the stage, untuned guitar, fucking murdering Sonic Youth songs. And it's like, but the love was there, so they let it happen, and there was something kind of beautiful about that. Yeah. That even it works with, I know comedy's a little different because if the people aren't laughing, it's terrible. But there's still, I feel like there's some room somewhere for someone who's maybe not. They're not fucking Louis. They're not Bill Burr right now, right? I can't say Louis.
That's the key word.
I didn't mean to say Louis,
but that's the key word though. Is right now, because how many of those shitty bands, because they were able to fuck around a little bit at these. Now they weren't playing glamorous venues, like you said. They're doing the basement at the pizza place, right? But to them, that's like, it's a gig. We're doing this. And, correct. And it's like, how many of them at some point were like, I think we could get better and really do this. Because someone was like, no, we love this here. I mean,
I think you missed something there that's really important too that you just said. Or you not missed it, but you talked over. I think it's really important that like where and when we're doing this, right? Because I have, like, for instance, I have gotten, my homies or whatever have given me shit or whatever for putting on like a new comic on like my show, right? I'm like, and my point is exactly what you said. It's like, bruh, maybe this comic isn't fucking like Bill Burr right now, all right? But like, it's a 10:30 show at a bar. Like, what do you like that? And I get the thinking. It's like that's not, and it shouldn't translate over to like this same comic featuring at Improv. Right? Okay, that's different. No, they shouldn't be doing that. And I don't want that comment to think they should be doing that either. You know what I mean? But like, bro, it's my show. There's like, what's going to happen? What's the worst that could happen?
Well,
you know what I mean?
And if you only put on the people that you know are good and that you can rely on every single time, even on those bar shows, it's like you're going to run out of people.
Right.
You have to constantly be fostering this and developing things.
Correct. And they're learning. You're giving them an opportunity to learn a lot of things. They're learning if these jokes work. They're learning what it's like to be in a shitty show where they gotta fight the television to get their jokes out. They're learning how to hang out with comics. You know what I mean? Because you just started comedy, bro. You don't know you don't know how awful comedians can be until you've been around them at 2 a.m. All right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like think about a band like Nirvana when they were coming out.
Oh, of course.
Think how many people were like, "Fucking turn that shit off."
There was a gamble with I love Nirvana. They're one of my favorite bands.
No, they're incredible. Yeah, but like really, if you really try to, on the wrong. If you really try to put yourself in that time period, of like just how now it's easy for that to feel a little like, I don't even know the right word because I don't want to be insulting because I love Nirvana, but so many people have now drawn influences from that it's easy to think like, it's like if you listen to the Beach Boys now, you're like, it's kind of silly music because so much time has passed.
Right. And Nirvana is still There are like so many Nirvana like new like present day new bands that are copying Nirvana. It's insane.
And there's probably a lot of them that don't even realize.
Very close.
They probably don't even realize they're doing it. A lot.
You don't
of
think so?
I think a lot of people don't like.
Oh man.
I think bands get so big that they influence the next generation of bands, and then that next generation is influencing new people who didn't realize they were learning from someone that had like a Nirvana influence. Right.
Well, you know who, and if I'm talking about music too much.
No, I love this.
But you know who that the labels, I think it was Sub Pop that was like, you know who it had the money on when Nirvana popped out? Like when nobody was thinking Nirvana was going to be the next big thing. You know who that was? They were thinking Mudhoney was going to be the shit. From what I understand, Mudhoney was the money. They were like, Mudhoney's about to change the game. And then you had Sonic Youth.
Yeah.
And Sonic Youth was just like, they had the money on Sonic Youth, but Sonic Youth was just too arty. And they couldn't stick to one thing, which again, Sonic Youth actually is my favorite band. So I remember in Thurston Moore's book, he talks about when he first met Kurt Cobain. And because they're basically responsible for getting them signed, getting Nirvana signed, and he was the same thing. He was like, "Yeah, Mudhoney was like fucking weird. God, why can't we be Mudhoney?"
Yeah, and
Nirvana was opening for them on the road, and that's how they got signed on Sub Pop when Sonic Youth was like, "Go ahead and sign fucking Nirvana. Like they're pretty good.
They're here.
They're pretty good. Like they're gonna be good."
Yeah,
and fucking dude, they just first album, bam. But
it's just it shows you right there. It's like you can't control what works.
You can't control what works.
But if you're somebody like, thank God.
Nobody saw it coming.
But it's like the woman that you were
dating. I'm just kidding.
No, the woman who you said pulled you aside for the In Living Color reboot audition.
Yeah.
Who was like, let me set you up with this booker.
Right.
It's like, again, thank God there's those people. Because if that one person, whoever it was didn't go like, let's try them out,
Right.
Then you wouldn't have Nirvana.
You wouldn't have Nirvana.
You know, how many other people would have passed on them and they would have just been that shitty
would have
band?
been that, Kurt would be some used car salesman in Seattle.
Yeah. I mean, for real, and it's like, you got to have those risk takers who don't just think about, like, I won't say any names, but there are a couple, like, quote, music labels that are kind of regional to this area.
Okay.
And I've kind of casually had, like, either, like, an instant message or something with them about, why aren't you making a move on certain things? Like trying to understand, like, what do you look for?
Interesting.
Because I think a lot about, like, what does a label even offer these days?
Yeah.
Right? Similar to what you're saying with comedy. It's like, do you need them if they're not putting you on a tour or doing stuff?
That is true. Do you need that's I had this
Yeah.
exact conversation with an agent yesterday.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is something I've always wanted, and it's crazy that I'm actually going to say these words to you, ma'am. I was like, I have wanted to sign with someone of this level for so long to help me get to the next level, but then what? Do I really need? Do I need to do that? Because I can just keep trying my hardest to push shit out. I don't have to owe you any money.
I mean, unless they're coming at you with, I want to give you these things. I think these things will help your career. And so when I was talking to those kind of local labels, they didn't have those answers.
Interesting.
And they were talking about, like, well, these people won't work for these reasons. They won't work for these reasons.
Yeah.
And it was all stuff where I was like, those are such business decisions. And it's like, I know it's a business, but at the same time, it's music. You're trying to start a label in an artistic field.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to take some risk on something that you know is good art,
right,
then what are you doing?
What are you doing?
You're going to have some of these failures, but you got to take that risk.
Do you I like a lot of local bands, a couple.
Yeah.
There's an old local band that they don't live here anymore from Denton. God damn, it's crazy. What's their name? Name of Denton band. You know any?
The only one I'm thinking of right now is a band called the Wee Beasties, but they're still here.
No, not them. I've heard of
Wait.
them.
Wait.
They moved to New York. God damn it. And then there's, I'll give you another band I really like from Dallas. The lead singer's real big guy.
You're talking about a pop punk band.
No, they're not pop punk. The lead singer's kind of a chubby guy. They're almost country, but not. Now you got me searching. Damn, we've been talking for a while.
Joshua Ray Walker.
Joshua Ray Walker.
Yeah,
yes,
he's fantastic.
I love Joshua Ray Walker.
Yeah.
I've never gone to see him. Every time they play a show locally, I'm either doing comedy or I'm with my kid or something. I've never been. He just recently played a show because I think he got cancer.
Yeah, he had some. I think he had some colon cancer or something.
Yeah,
going on, right?
they played a show and I missed it.
So here's an example of like the scene that we have that kind of goes under the radar. Mm-hmm. So Joshua Ray Walker, what time are you trying to hit that?
How much time were you thinking of going for?
Oh, I'll finish up on this story.
Okay,
but Joshua Ray Walker was playing guitar for a band called the Ottoman Turks.
Okay,
which was a rock band around here, and they're still doing their thing. But like each one of those guys in that band kind of has a solo thing that they do, and all of their bands are very good. Yeah. And that was Joshua Ray Walker's solo thing, and it just took off, right? And it's a shame because like the lead singer of the other band he's in, and then the bass player of that band, they both have solo projects that are good projects.
Okay.
But it's just hard to get the word out. Like there's this DFW music scene that goes under the radar to me on a national level. Really? I feel like, you know how like people used to be like, oh, Austin, music, capital of the world. And like you would venture these places to see music. There's enough of that here in DFW. Like we have some incredible artists here of all different genres. Yeah. But there's just a little bit of this glue or something we're missing to where it's kind of all, like people know that it's happening,
Interesting.
Like, have you heard of Charlie Crockett?
Yeah, I love Charlie Crockett.
He's from here too.
Yeah,
he's really
good.
It's like his lead guitar player was in a band called the Van Sanchez that was like a good like mixture of like rock and punk rock.
Interesting. Okay.
And that band just couldn't get any traction going, and now he is doing lead with Charlie and having a great time, I'm sure. But there's always a good scene here, but I feel like now we're in this point where it's like, man, we got to find people who are gonna either like have podcasts, write about it, go to shows and take pictures, just do a blog. Like nowadays, it's like we should have people who are just doing reels about the cool shows they went to and the bands you need to check out.
Yeah, what we don't have that.
Do you see it?
I mean, that could be you. You got the podcast.
I try, man, but there's only so many hours in the day. All right, I'm trying to.
That's true. Yeah,
I'm trying to do too many. Like
work.
Well, and like I don't want to get divorced. Yeah. So there's only so much.
Yeah.
No.
Have you thought about starting a label or anything?
Yeah, but I need to learn more. More. Lawrence is a good step in that direction because there was a lot to learn from that.
Yeah.
And truthfully, the biggest thing I need to do is I need to show that I'm worth. Like if I was pitching you with something, you need to believe that I'm worth it. Right.
Right. I tried to start a music label in college, and it was like, we didn't know what we were doing. We were like, we'll just get an 8-track. We'll have bands record in the basement. My friend's had a house, which is crazy. And he was like, we'll just get bands record down here. And then we were all like, are we insane right now? We had a name. We even made a logo. We printed some shirts or whatever. Cross Space Records.
But that's more than what everybody's doing, right?
That's true. That's true.
And it's a good name, by the way, Cross Space Records. I like that. But no, I want a group of like 30 people here locally who all do something similar. Where literally we could have like a barbecue once a year and just talk, like shoot the shit, where it's not even competitive. It's like, oh, so-and-so kind of works in this lane and it's pretty cool and it crosses over here and there. Yeah. Like everybody's going to benefit from that. Yeah. I mean, even you, it's like, if you love music this much, even though you're a comic, it's like, maybe you should throw up some content about like the music you love, or like maybe Andy goes to search for local bands or something. Yeah. I don't know, and maybe
that's how Fred Armisen made it.
Dude, have you seen the stuff T-Pain does?
No.
Dude, look up all the side stuff he does right now. It's ridiculous. And it's so entertaining. Yeah. So entertaining.
I'm gonna look up. I know T-Pain's kind of an entertaining guy. He's kind of cool out here.
Dude, he's super cool.
I've never really listened to T-Pain. I mean, other than the radio.
Dude, I'll send you a link. He just did a live show, I don't even know if it was like I think he just decided I want to put on a show and do this thing, but he recorded it all. And he even did a bunch of covers in there, and he covered War Pigs.
No way. Not anything else?
No. Black Sabbath.
Black Sabbath. Oh, War Pigs. Sorry. I'm thinking March of the Pigs.
Yeah. And it's really fucking good.
Really?
It's really good.
Really?
Really good.
Huh, okay.
And so it's like maybe that's your lane. Maybe you start showing all this punk rock love you were talking about, this hip hop love you were talking about, and it's like it's just ancillary to your comedy. Yeah. Take us through your vinyl collection.
Dude, I've been thinking about rapping on stage. I've been considering it.
Just be careful. It's got to be good. All right, man. Let's get you out of here. I know you're trying to hit a mic, but remind everybody where the special's at with the company that you did it with.
4x3
on YouTube.
On YouTube. Their YouTube page is 4x3. I think that's it. It's just 4x3 Productions or something like that. Yeah. And it's on the top right now, so it's still on top. So somebody else releases one.
It's fun and yeah. No, your title.
Oh, fun and
dude, you gotta listen. You gotta work on promoting your shit here. Okay.
All right. Fun and cool. Because I am.
Fun and cool. It's on YouTube. Go check it out. I'm assuming you got it all linked up in bios and all that good stuff. Yeah. But I think if you just type that in now, it's pulling up.
Really?
That's how I found it today.
That's cool.
I just did your name and the title because I was just curious, and it slides up, man. Maybe, so yeah.
If you have any ideas on where I should post it too to get some more views, let me know.
Just clip it up, post it everywhere. You got it's all out there. Did the company say you can't do that or anything?
Well, they're clipping it up.
Just tell them.
They released like 3 clips, and I got one really cool.
Yeah.
That's actually, I forgot to mention, dude, the actual like any traction I got was not from the actual special. It was the clips that they put on Stand Up Genius.
Yeah.
Immediately. That was like, that was all. Dude,
just put it out there.
Yeah.
Keep doing shows. Keep writing, and it's going to do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's all. That's it, man. But dude, thanks so much.
Thanks, man. It was fun.
The I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.